Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Yes, indeed. Here we are, the ultimate Cleveland sports show. We've got Brad, we've got Jason G. Bush, and me. Jay is out. He is mourning the fact that the Panthers have cut Baker Mayfield. That's why Jay couldn't make it today. He was too depressed.
Hiding under the covers.
And I'll tell you something, guys. We'll get into the Browns' victory in just a minute. But we got to say,
Hold on. I got to do this.
Yeah, please.
Everybody.
What's happening?
Moment of silence for Baker Mayfield's career.
Now, when Baker got traded to the Panthers, there were a number of Browns fans, G, who said they were becoming Panthers fans. Remember those people?
Yeah, all them people.
Now they're going to be fans of the waiver wire because he is cut. He's going to the waiver wire. And I love all these tweets from all these geniuses. Going to San Francisco. Maybe he will go to San Francisco. I don't know. As if he's the answer with Jimmy G gone. Baker Mayfield is no good.
He has not been good.
No.
Add that to another one. There's people in this town that was just so enamored and loved him to death, and his moxie and his determination, and it was the shoulder. Bro, all of that don't get you no wins, bro.
Now, in fairness, he did ask for his release, and the Panthers are happy to oblige.
Right.
So it's not like he did ask for it. Just
Right.
want that.
But that's like
according to Jeremy Fowler, right? Is that who it was?
That's correct, but
Fowler.
they didn't think that's because they didn't think he was any good. They wouldn't have cut him.
Right.
They thought he was any good.
I mean, I've been divorced once. Just because I asked for the divorce don't mean my wife wanted to stay with me. Like, it wasn't like I had no any options. She was like, no, I'm cool. I'm really cool with that. Cool.
I'm telling you, he should be a high draft pick in the CFL, the XFL,
You going?
All right,
the
listen.
World League of American Football.
He'll be on Big Noon Kickoff in 3 years. We know it. Let's get on to the Browns. Let's go on to the Browns.
You going
real
to
quick,
you
some
going to
more
USFL
quarterback
route now?
More quarterback news.
Josh Dobbs signed with the Lions right now. As of the last 3 minutes, he's now on their practice squad. I didn't even realize the Browns had officially cut him. I thought
They
just
had.
promoted
Where you
him to
been
the
for
practice
that?
squad.
Yeah, I saw they
Cut
cut him,
him
but
last
I didn't even know why they released him. I'm like,
This is not an NFL quarterback. That's why they released him.
Well, that's true.
There you go.
That's
Come
true.
on now.
So, all right. So
stop playing with me.
So Baker's cut. I'd love to laugh about that for 2 hours. Of course, in typical Browns fans paranoia, I already got 10 tweets. He's going to go to the Niners and they're going to win the Super Bowl. Shut the hell up. The Niners ain't winning crap. And if they do, it's not because of Baker Mayfield. It's going to be because of some dope they drafted in the last pick of the 7th round. All right, guys. Speaking of dopey quarterbacks, I don't know. I guess Deshaun Watson's not a dope. He's done some dopey things. And he played like crapola yesterday. But the Browns still won the game. How do you score 27 points when your quarterback plays about as awfully as he can? You play the Houston Texans. That's how. It was a weird game, guys. You had the Browns score 14 points on defense. They scored 7 points on special teams.
Yeah.
And they scored, 6 points?
2 field goals.
Two field goals on offense.
Their offense was outscored by Houston's offense, 12-6. If you're keeping score.
That garbage time touchdown by Nico Collins
Put
him
him over the top.
Put them over the top. It was a bizarre game,
Yes.
but in the end, G, you start us off here. The Browns got a victory.
You know, first and foremost, I want to send a shout out to the Kool-Aid gang. We still in it. Don't get it twisted. That 5-7. Listen, that's 2 in a row if you count at home. The Kool-Aid gang is still in the building. But I will say this: that Kool-Aid was warm, and we didn't have no ice cubes.
Yeah, no cubes in it. There were no cubes in it. And no sugar.
And we ran
Very
out,
limited sugar.
And we ran out of sugar, so we started using lemon juice and honey. It just did not taste the way I was thinking it did. Boy, but I will say, there's a couple of things where I looked at it.
Get to it.
I said, man, he was skipping the rock to people. I thought he was playing rugby. He did not look comfortable in the pocket, which is to be expected. I told people, I was sitting there last week and say, listen, there might be an opportunity where usually he's a guy that can move his feet, look downfield, and still guide and kind of feel the pressure on without looking at it. You know, that's why they do those drills where they hit them with the brooms and then throw stuff around. Yeah. But they want you to move your feet and keep your eyes downfield. He looked like your average mobile quarterback who, if something happens, I'm rolling out the pocket. If something happens, I'm looking to tuck and run. And I think the game was just really fast for him. Hopefully, like most coaches say, the best time or most improvement you see is from week 1 to week 2. Obviously, this is, week, 14 or something for everybody else.
Yep.
But for him, this is week 2.
Yeah.
So you just hope he does what Jacoby Brissett did. Look progressively better after his first start.
Jason, every once in a while you'll see a car, it's a little rusty. There you go, right?
There's
a little bit of rust, but the Deshaun Watson car was covered in rust.
I wrote it wasn't rust, that was rigor mortis.
Yeah, it was
that
ugly.
We saw. It was. But listen, okay, let's start with the positives, right?
Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett looked unplayable against Carolina in week 1. And look how much better he got with a few more reps.
Sure, of course.
Looked significantly better in week 2, and then on and on and on and on and on. So, Deshaun didn't even have – he had a little bit of a training camp in preseason, but that was a long time ago. He had 3 practices last week. That's it. 3. So, with more practice time this week, you would hope next week – I mean, listen, obviously they have to be a lot better next week. G nailed it and everything that he said. He was skipping passes. He never looked comfortable in the pocket. The interception was awful. He never saw the safety, and the safety was just sitting on the route. I thought he had DPJ on a crossing route if he could have held on to it for another second or two. He didn't have the time. There's a guy in his face on that. There's the play there. That's the pick.
Yeah, he didn't see it. He didn't see it.
Yeah, you never saw
He
it.
saw it.
So that's the type of things that you would hope would get cleaned up with reps. I can tell you, I was in the locker room after the game. Nobody was concerned. Everyone kind of agreed and sort of grimaced like, yeah, that was really bad. But nobody was concerned long term. Everyone still is fully confident that he is going to be the guy that we saw in Houston. And I had one player tell me, like, listen, even if it doesn't happen this year, like, we need to stop. Gee, I love you. We need to stop at the playoffs and the 6-0. It's
I'm not even in that game.
It is not happening. And I was talking to one player in particular after the game. It's like, even if it's not, playoffs this year, it's all about getting him ready so that next year there are no excuses, and from day one, this team's ready to go.
By the way,
4.6.
By the way, even if the Browns do win out, which I don't think they will, they still don't have it's still not a lock that they're going to make the playoffs, even if they win out, because they don't have tiebreakers over anybody but Cincinnati right now.
They're not. I heard you say you thought the wild card was the best path. I think they have no shot at the wild card. I think the division is their only path. And I don't even think that's a very.
The only reason I say that is because the Bengals and Ravens already have 8 wins.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
And so.
You're not going to catch them.
Now, if Lamar misses the rest of the season, the Ravens could go 1-4.
Oh, yeah.
But they're still playing a soft schedule.
And they still got to catch the Bengals.
And they still got to catch the Bengals. Now, but Brad, did you see any positives from Watson?
Well, first I'm going to get my money off here, right? This is, welcome to Keep It Real Radio. This is what this is about to be. Now, this dude's been out Deshaun Watson's been out 700 days. Mm-hmm. And people was like thinking that he was going to walk back in here and roll out. He looked like a dude that had been out 700 days.
Yeah,
right?
he did.
And then I thought about it yesterday. I thought about it yesterday in this type of context. In football, that heat he got yesterday, people coming for your head, right? Mm-hmm. You cannot simulate that in practice. It's not happening, right? It's not happening at all, right? You got a red jersey on, or orange jersey on, can't nobody touch you. Well, the Texans was trying to touch you yesterday. This is why and the way he played, I don't think surprised me at all, right? And some of it is just the mechanics.
You expect him to be that bad?
No, I expect your mechanics to be bad, right?
Okay.
Because it's like this, Bull. When I'm hooping and I'm in the flow, I'm rolling. Mm-hmm. You take me out of playing basketball for 6 weeks, 6 months, I'm going to look like garbage, right, till I come back. Mm-hmm. Because it's some mechanics here. Because he could see it in his mind. He wasn't trying to throw them balls in the dirt. He don't have the mechanics to throw it on the run like that. What I was happy about was this. He saw one play where he saw a chance to get up the field. He ran, and he took a blow, and he got up from it. That's a positive sign.
Yeah.
Like he saw something. This is going to get better, right? It's not going to stay like this, but if you could just imagine you not writing for 2 years and then go back and have to write
wonderful.
and had to write a column. Could you be
as long as Jason's still getting paid, he'd be happy about that.
Crystal point on?
Yeah.
Right? It's not.
Yeah.
There's some repetition here. But the one thing I did see is this. We're going to stop talking about these playoffs, right? We're playing for next year. That's what we're playing.
That's right.
That's why we're playing him. I had this conversation with somebody last night. They were like, he's playing because we're not playing for this year. I got to get you ready for the next year.
That's right.
Right. This is where we are.
Yeah, no doubt, guys. Listen, you can't play a worse game than Watson played. It was absolutely atrocious. He was awful.
He was the lowest rated quarterback in Week 13 outside of the dude from the Rams, Stafford's replacement.
Right.
I didn't see Matt Ryan's numbers last night after the game because I guess he was awful, so maybe he was worse.
Or outside
Yeah.
Baker.
Well, no, for Week 13 quarterbacks, he was the lowest rated outside of the backup.
Yeah.
And in EPA, he was 4th lowest all year long.
We
it
all-
was really
We all
bad.
saw it with our eyes.
It was
right?
worse than we
He
thought
was
it
terrible.
numbers-wise.
He was terrible. This will be his worst moment probably as a Browns quarterback.
I
There's
hope
a
so.
lot. I don't think. I think anybody. Like I heard there was somebody on the radio today, not at my old station, but another station, saying they should have benched him for Brissett. That's the
insane.
dumbest thing I've
That's the
ever heard
dumbest
in
thing
my
I've
life.
ever heard of.
Yes.
You are, as Brad said, he's 100% right. Yeah, you're hoping against hope that you can still make the playoffs. Until you've been eliminated, you keep trying to make it. I get it. But the reality is you need to work him through these growing pains, rust. By the way, not only is it rust from 700 days, he's also playing with a new team.
Yeah.
With a new coaching staff and new
whole
players. And that's not an excuse. I mean, it's just a factor in the situation. So he's going to have some. I think even at his best this year, he won't be what he's going to be next year.
Bull,
You got to work him through that
Can I ask
stuff.
you this? Is it me, or did it look like there was no real duress in Houston? It looked like the people in Houston had moved on.
They didn't care.
They didn't care.
And there was the perfect team to play.
They didn't care at all.
If he played that way against any other team, they lose.
Nobody.
So I
It
talk.
was more Deshaun
didn't care.
Watson jerseys. I ain't talking about his family.
No, no.
There was more Deshaun Watson
Guys,
jerseys
it's
in the
going to be
stands.
much worse in Cincinnati this week. Much worse.
I look at it like this. Sometimes when we talk about politics all the time, polls, you might as well not even listen to polls no more. The poll people be so there's going to be a red wave, or Trump has no chance to win. All of that was false. Like either way, they be just so convoluted. I don't mind who you talking to, and this is the thing during the whole Watson case or whatever. I felt like there were pockets of the media that had no pulse of what real people thought about it. And when you got there to Houston, they made it like, oh, this is going to be crazy. They're going to be a bunch of people protesting. Not only was that not the case, there was people lined up getting autographs before the game.
I do think it'll be different in Cincinnati, though.
Did you see the way the people,
Texans fans don't care.
I'll get away from the fans. Did you see how the staff and the Texans greeted him when he hit the floor? Did you see that? I was like,
Well, of course, the players don't care. The players have
no, I'm not talking about the players.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the staff, the workers.
A couple of the coaches were hugging him on the field when he first came
that's
out
not
in
a
warm-ups.
surprise.
No, not
I don't
a
know why
surprise.
anybody would be surprised by that.
Zach Jackson, of course, my partner with The Athletic, when we were walking to the stadium yesterday, we thought, well, let's walk through the tailgate lot and just try and get some colors, some scenery, see what's. No, there was no need. There was 30 people there.
I
you
saw
could
those
see
pictures.
them all.
Now,
you could see them all
Jason,
through the fence.
you
It was
remember
like-
when LeBron walked in here the first day? You better stand over there like this in the corner with your head. I don't see nothing.
But I can't blame the Texans fans. Their team is an all-time, like one of these, like the Browns were in 2016.
It's
an
the
all-time bad
third year in a row they've been terrible. It's not like, this is, this
They're
is
horrible.
1-31 bad is what they're going through right now.
It'll be worse when he plays. They've got 3 more road games against teams that are at least certainly Cincinnati. They're playing at Washington, right? So
and Pittsburgh's going to really let them have it.
Of course, in these situations, it's going to be a little crazier. Who knows what affected him? He may have been feeling the pressure of the contract. All these things played a role. It's going to get better. I think you'd be foolish to change your opinion long term on Deshaun Watson and iota based on this one game, as bad as it was.
Go back to this, because I want to make sure we tap on this, right?
Yeah.
Some people in your profession.
Oh boy.
After that game. Now, he's already come out and said, listen, I just want to talk about football here, right? And so they asked him a question after the game. Do you have any remorse, right?
Yeah.
So he comes back, gives him a line, well, I'm not going to talk about that. I want to just talk about the game, right? I told you last week, there's people in your profession, right, that don't care. They're just straight smokes. That's all they are, right? They are.
I'll give you a little bit of context when you're done. Go ahead.
And I was like this. I was like, he just answered the question that he wasn't going to answer the question. Then somebody came 10 seconds later and followed up with the same question, just rephrased it.
Same person. It was. I'll tell you who it was. That was Jenny Vrentis, the reporter from Sports Illustrated, who wrote the. I'm sorry. Actually, she's with us now. She's not with us. She's with New York Times, and she wrote the original story on all of the women, and so that's why. And she spoke to a couple of the accusers prior to the game. and she was the one. And you know what? I thought this was her chance to see him, obviously in that environment. Go ahead and ask the question.
Well, let me follow you around for a few days and figure out what you did, because you done something too. Trust me and believe me,
but
you have.
Well, again, she's the reporter who broke a major part of the story in the first place. That was her opportunity to see Deshaun. She wanted to see if he was going to say he was remorseful. He avoided the question. She gave him a second chance.
I personally don't have a problem with her asking. I don't have a problem with him saying he wasn't going to talk about
agree.
it. I don't have a problem with it either.
This is what I have a problem with, right?
Yeah.
Aside from the facts, I don't know the facts. I just know what's out here.
Yeah.
Now, this is where I fault the Browns at, right? Because what should have occurred was he should have said, okay, the rule is you have to be made available after the game, right? Okay, I'll make myself available under these conditions, right? The day that you ask me a question outside of these conditions, I'm leaving, right? And the Browns, this has not occurred. For the life of me, I don't know why this has not occurred.
I don't think it was a big deal, honestly. She asked it, he said he wasn't going to comment, and that's it.
But I said, well, this is going to go on every freaking.
No, I think it will.
It'll be less and less and less as the weeks go by.
Let's see if it goes on in Cincinnati.
Every other team has to deal with that, like when you have a situation like that. When Michael Vick came back, when all these other guys who have had off the field problems.
Well, here, I'm gonna just say this, and I don't want to get sideways on this thing, but it always seems to occur to people of color. It always does, right? I don't see him chasing Brett Favre down.
Well, I think Roethlisberger had answered quite a few of these questions.
Yeah. Again, I don't see him chasing Brett Favre down. I ain't going back in the day.
Favre's not in the public eye.
I will say they've done it like years after Kobe, right? Years after Kobe, they'll say Kobe Bryant, 4-time champion, Los Angeles Laker, one of the greatest 75 players of all time, but we also have to mention that he was accused of sexual assault. And
everybody loved Kobe by the end. I think that was barely a footnote by the end.
But my thing is, why would you mention that? Like that's not a thing. He was acquitted of that.
I mean, who mentioned it though?
Gayle King.
I mean, I feel like that doesn't really get mentioned.
Gayle King is one of the biggest. Gayle King is one of the biggest journalists in the game.
So my whole thing is this: in G and our community, there's a perception out here that this is how this flows.
Right.
And it's more normal. I mean, it's more times than not. That's how the perception is. The second thing is, until the Browns get a handle on how they're going to run the operation here, this is going to occur. Because you're not going to stop sports. Because once somebody get a bead on it,
but I think
they want to. Here, let me.
I don't think it's anything to do with the Browns, though. I think it'll be.
The Browns have to give the rules of engagement here. What are we doing here, right? Because I'm gonna tell you what, Bull. You know this business.
Yeah.
When somebody get a bead on you, they not going away. Because somebody want the answer. You're going to answer this question.
But he's not. But he didn't. I personally think he handled it the right way.
So do I. But I'm saying that does not stop the people from saying, okay, I'm going to get this answer from you, right?
Unless there's new allegations that come out, I really think, I live in this world, I think yesterday was the last you're going to hear of that because it was already less. Thursday was a few, and he said, I'm not going to answer those. It was a handful, but not many. A lot of them were football related. Yesterday, in that environment, being back in Houston, the accuser that we know it was just that one, and it was and I don't fault her at all for asking it. I think she was there to ask it, but she's not, and she's not going to follow him to every game and ask this. I really think that line of questioning, because he's made clear he's not going to answer it. I think it ended yesterday.
Let me tell you.
And to the operation and the way the Browns handled it, I actually thought they did a good job with it yesterday because, listen, you should have seen the room. I wish I could describe it. It was like this tiny, it's always tiny on the road. It's like this 10 by 10, 12 by 12 room, real small, and it's just packed with people. And actually, I thought the Houston media should have asked him, why did you ask for a trade? Like, none of that even came up. That wasn't even addressed.
They moved on.
But that was their chance to see him and to ask him. That has never been asked of him in Houston. That was their chance, and they didn't ask
it. Because they moved on.
But with the Browns, in terms of how they handled how yesterday went, I thought they did a nice job. Because normally you're just shouting questions in a post game.
And I'm not talking about something I don't know about. Do you remember when Jordan was being accused of the gambling thing?
Yes.
The Bulls snatched that right out there. Not answer no questions.
It was a different time.
No, but it's the way
Yeah.
that the organization sets the rules of engagement
But
here.
to me, if the Browns had said you can't ask that question, that's worse.
Absolutely.
They're not,
I think it's
they're not
worse.
saying that you can't ask a question.
Yeah.
Here,
He's a grown man.
He's a grown man that has the right to say,
Absolutely.
I am not doing this.
But
and
the
if
team
you
can't.
do this,
The team can't prevent you from asking.
no,
that.
but I'm saying, but if you do this, I'm walking right out the door.
Here's what I would say, and I love your response from everybody. In case you didn't know, I'm not black. Okay, I'm not. It may come as a surprise.
Breaking news.
I'm not
Bull is
black.
white.
So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I understand the black experience in America. I'm not going to be a phony. Okay? So I don't know. I certainly think that racism rears its ugly head a lot more often than other people think it does. Okay? And when all the owners of football teams and most owners of large companies are white, that certainly plays a factor. No doubt. Does that mean every rich white guy's a racist? Of course
No,
not
of course
everyone
not.
is.
Of course not.
But it's reasonable to think that some are. And at the very least, that subconsciously they're used to being around white people and things like that are going to happen. Is there racism in coverage in the media? Of course that's a factor.
Absolutely.
Of course that's a factor. In my opinion, in this particular case, and I could be wrong, I think if Deshaun Watson were white, I think people that most of the media coverage would be the same. I'm admitting I could be wrong, but I think in this particular case, the majority of the people looking for the stories, not all, but the majority, I think it would be handled the same way. I understand if you feel differently.
No,
certainly,
I don't blame them for asking the question. That's what they're there to do. What I take issue with from this standpoint is that it seems to me from the outside is there's a free for all here, right? When he walks into that room, what are the rules of engagement when he walks into the room? Is it a free for all?
No, that's what I was starting to explain. So what happened was the room is packed with far more people than is usual on a road media availability. And so the way the Browns handled it was instead of just 50 people shouting out, I'm just going to call on you. So they did control it from that perspective because if they didn't call on you, you can't get a question off.
Right.
And the way that they handled it, which I thought they did a good job with this, the first 5 or 6 questions were directed to Cleveland media because it was going to be, they knew it was going to be about the game.
Right.
But you can't ignore the other half of the room. So then they took a couple Houston questions, and then they called on Jenny, knowing full well what her question was going to be. But you have to give her that opportunity to ask that question. He's a grown man. He can handle it any way he sees fit. And I thought he handled it well. He answered it well. And then we moved on. And that was that. But I liked the way that they handled it. They kept control of the situation, so it wasn't just everyone shouting questions all at once. We got the football side of it. We got the Houston component. Jenny was able to ask her question. We went back to football, and everybody went home.
And I'll just say this, that I'm a guy that's been in the locker room, right? And I know how it's supposed to be handled. That's not how it's supposed to be handled. I would just tell you that. It's not how it's supposed to be handled at all.
G. Bush, last point, then we're going to get back to the game. We'll talk a little DPJ and some defense.
Yeah.
Last point of this, we'll get back to football.
So yeah, this is a great analogy, and I want to see how many people resonate with this. If I mean, you can count me as I guess I'm in the media. If they say, G. Bush, you're going to interview Joe Biden today. Get an opportunity to interview the president. So, I'm getting my notes prepared and all the great questions I could ask him. Are you going to serve a second term? What are your thoughts on, North Korea, immigration, inflation, all those good questions, right? But I get my one shot, my one opportunity to talk to him, but I ask him about sexual assault allegations that happened, 10 years, 12 years ago. For me, I don't think any journalist would do that, right? Because the reason why they say they wouldn't do it is because there's a lot more relevant information that I'd like to ask you. I wouldn't waste my one question on something that I can tell I probably won't get an answer that I want. And that answer to me is not even really relevant to what I'm talking about today. Now, granted, what he's going through and Deshaun Watson is his first game back is relevant. However, after he's already done talked about it 2 to 3 days and he shut everybody else down, Me as a journalist, I was trying to find another creative way in order to ask a question that I felt he would literally answer. Because it seems like you're throwing a question away because he's not going to answer it. So why not come with something different?
All right, let's leave it there. Obviously, we could talk about this all day, but let's leave it there because we've spent time talking about Deshaun Watson and his poor performance. But ultimately, the Browns won the game. It was a weird game. The defense played well. Guys, in my opinion, now, it's the NFL, it's not college. So a win is a win, right? That's all that matters in the small sense. But in the bigger picture, I'm not convinced that the Browns defense has been fixed. I think the Texans have one of these teams that you see every 5-10 years, like you saw with the Browns 5-6 years ago. It's just they have like 5 good players on the whole roster. They're a horrible team. And that doesn't mean the Browns might not play good D against the Bengals as they did earlier in the year or the rest of the season. But for me, I can't read that much into what their defense did. Even though it played well, I can't read that much into it going forward. Brad?
Well, I think yesterday's game was a throwaway game. I wasn't expecting much out of the Texans, and they did not disappoint.
Yeah.
But Sunday, Burrow.
Yes.
That's going to be your test.
That's
Yes.
it.
Right?
That's it.
Because Burrow asked Mahomes about Burrow yesterday. He was on his business yesterday, right? So now you're gonna catch Cincinnati playing at a high clip,
Right.
Right.
With Chase back, with Nixon back.
It's everybody here, right? And don't forget the comment Chase said about Newsom and Denzel early in the season. So this is gonna be full tilt here on this weekend, right? So we're gonna need everybody here. The D's gonna need to show up. Watson can't look like he looked yesterday. The run game can't be like it was yesterday. The offensive line is getting overpowered. Can't look like that. This is going to be a game here. If you have any chance to talk about a division run here, you got to have this game on Sunday.
Jason, the defense specifically.
Yeah.
Do you read anything out of the performance against the Texans?
I mean, I can't do much on a football field, but I could have picked that ball up and ran in the end zone like Denzel Ward could.
Easy money.
Right?
The interception by John Johnson was
That was
it's
a
like
fluke
he
play.
did anything.
Yeah, that was a fluke play. Really, he got beat on the route.
Yeah.
And the ball popped up in the air, and he just happened to be there to catch it. So, I mean, Kyle Allen's not really an NFL quarterback.
No, he's not.
Terrible. The Texans' offense is terrible. And that's not to take anything away from the Browns. You did what you were supposed to do. Congratulations, gold star in the box. Like, that's what you're supposed to do.
Absolutely.
And you did it. You let the defense has let this team down so many times this year. It's so many different turns. Jacoby Brissett was probably standing there going, where was this when I was out there?
Right.
So, I mean, you have to factor that in, the fact that Tampa Bay just can't outrun the ball this year. So
their back is really good, but that Damian Pierce is really
nice.
good.
Yeah.
Tampa?
Tampa. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Damian Pierce.
I'm going back. I'm sorry. I'm going
He's
back
a good
2
player.
weeks ago.
That's all they got.
Well, White was running the ball well too, and the first drive, and they went away from it.
I'm just saying.
Tampa hasn't all year.
I'm reserving judgment on where this defense really stands until these next 2 weeks. These next 2 weeks, although with Lamar being out, that changes some things.
Yeah.
But certainly this Sunday against Cincinnati is going to tell us an awful lot about where they stand.
Yeah.
They did what they were supposed to do yesterday. I still don't believe they have any defensive tackles on the roster.
Nope.
No.
And if they fix that, it will clean up a lot of the other issues that we've been screaming about.
It's kind of
all
late
year.
to fix it now.
Well, it is. I'm not even talking about
next
this
year,
year.
for
I'm
next
not even talking
Okay,
about this year.
Gee, what about you on the defense?
You know what? This is a hard thing for me because I'm telling people to drink this 16-0 Kool-Aid. But even if in the small area where they would go 6-0 with the small chance, that means that the defense probably played decent, and that means there's a decent chance that they might not get rid of Joe Woods, and that hurts my soul. I don't want no parts of that. If I could lose, if I could win and he can still be up out of here, I love it. But I will tell you this. I got to give credit where credit is due. I saw something very innovative. I might have skipped people's mind, but I saw some innovation, and I was like, oh, he might have figured something out here. When Myles Garrett, I've always thought, Myles Garrett is about 285. I've always thought his next evolutionary step was 3 technique. Myles Garrett could play tackle.
Yeah, I saw him line up there.
And he was lining up as a stand-up 3 technique. And at the snap of the ball, on obvious pass downs, they tell him, you got a 2-way go. You can jab here, you can come back underneath, you can hit a step back move. Just play basketball with that guy right there. He can't guard you. And on them plays, Myles Garrett was giving these dudes, he was just unblockable. He's just giving jab steps. I'm over the top. You can't stop me. This play right here. The play right here, they showed that picture. He had already given this dude a move. He had hit this dude in the back of the head. I'm like, this is crazy.
G. Bush, he pulled a Euro step on the defensive line. He pulled the Giannis Antetokounmpo Euro step through 2 offensive linemen. It was absurd. And he's a freak of nature athlete. It makes no sense. He does things that no other human on earth can do.
Mikey gave him the Euro.
He gave him he hit him that Ginobili.
Next week will show us, can you have a real conversation about
yes.
the playoffs?
If
they win next week, then we can have a real conversation.
2 weeks.
They
got to beat Baltimore too. I'm not entertaining any nonsense playoff talk.
But I'm saying,
until they win
if
the next
they beat
2.
the Bengals and Lamar's not playing, I think they'll beat
the
Baltimore.
law of exchange theory, according to G. Bush, says if the Bengals beat the Chiefs and then you come back and you beat the Bengals at home, that to me means I just beat the Chiefs and the Bengals.
No, that's not how it works.
That's how it works.
That's not how it works.
6-0 Kool-Aid works that way. Yes,
if
sir.
they get back to 500.
By the way,
get back to 500.
We'll be going to OT at the end of this show, and that's exclusively for members, Mikey McNuggets.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Ohio State finding themselves in the college football
I have my
playoff.
shirt on.
Right in that back door.
How is this not on
Stop
the
it.
rundown?
Because
How
this
is
is
this?
the kind of content that people need, they crave. And you know what? Sometimes you got to make sure the premium content is the premium content. It's going to be for the coaches tier, overtime exclusive. We had so much Deshaun Watson stuff to talk about, G. We didn't want to take away from the core of our show, which is the Browns. So we're going to get all the Deshaun Watson stuff in for $4.99. You can become a member. That's the overtime segment today. But you know what's free? Tim Couch, our good friend, the quarterback extraordinaire. Tim, what's up, man? What'd you think of Deshaun Watson yesterday?
Hey, what's up, guys? Pretty much what you guys are saying. Just like I thought last week that Deshaun would be a little rusty, and he was. I think we saw him throwing balls at people's feet. It looked like to me like he was kind of aiming the ball, just trying to. He was like overcautious. He wasn't just trying to come out and let the ball go. He didn't feel great about the rhythm of the game, the speed of the game. It looked like he was rushed a little bit. And he made some errant throws and, a couple errant reads. But, they got the win, and, the defense did what they had to do. Special teams got a touchdown. Defense had 2 touchdowns. So, a win is a win, but a lot of room for growth for Deshaun.
I was just asking these guys, Tim, like the Texans, like the Browns were, we see these teams every few years that are just – they're a new level of bad. Like the Texans are hideous. They're an awful, awful football team. Can you take anything from how the Browns defense played against the Texans, or do you got to throw it away because they're just so bad it doesn't mean that much? What do you think?
Yeah, I think just like you said, I think that one's tough to judge. The Texans are down right now. They don't have any explosive players. The offense is really struggling. Quarterback isn't playing well for them. So, you kind of really throw it away. But, the defense, you get 2 touchdowns on that side of the ball. That's always impressive, in an NFL game. So, they got points in other areas. Obviously, they're going to have to score a lot on offense this coming week against Burrow, and the Bengals are playing really good football right now, putting up a lot of points. They got a lot of great weapons. So Deshaun is going to have to really make a big step from his first game to his second game to be able to stay on the field with Burrow because, like I said, they're going to put up points, and it's not going to be you can't, depend on your defense to go out and stop those guys and get turnovers and get points on that side of the ball. You have to go out offensively and kind of match the Bengals, touchdown for touchdown. And he's going to have to find a way to put the ball in the end zone.
Hey, Tim, you're a golfer, right?
Yeah, for sure.
If you hadn't golfed in a year, right, and went back out on the golf course, and you wanted to tee that ball up, you know how rugged that is when you hadn't golfed for a while, right? That's how he looked yesterday.
Struggle.
Like he hadn't
That's
golfed
exactly how he
in a long time, right? And and I could see in his mind, he could see things in his mind, but his body was like, nah, we're not ready to do that yet. We working on putting right now. That's where we are. So how does he correct that? How does he correct that in a week?
It's going to be tough. I think it's going to take some time. I think it's just a matter of getting those game reps. I'm sure Deshaun put in, a ton of work and, while he was off, but, working with quarterback coaches, throwing the ball, but there's just no way to emulate a pass rush and, pressure and, having to make throws on the run guys at your feet. You can't step into throws. Just having to deliver the ball from different platforms. There's really no way to practice that other than be out on the field playing in a real game. So it's just going to take some time for Deshaun. And I totally agree with what you said, Brad. You could see that he was processing the information correctly. The ball just wasn't getting to where it needed to be. The throws that he's used to making were one hopping into guys. The one I remember specifically, they did a little zone read action. He tried to pick it up and throw a little quick slant. Just for a little 5-6 yard gain, and it hit the guy in the knees. So, he made a couple head scratching throws, and it's just a matter of getting in there, getting back in the timing and the rhythm and the offense, and getting used to the speed of the game again.
Hey Tim, if we was on a golf course, you'd be hearing a lot of this out there. 4.
Oh, there's no question. There'd be a lot of 4s out there. People need to put helmets on if you have to play in the year.
Hey, Tim, I'm gonna defer to your knowledge on this because sometimes I'm just a Mid-American Conference defensive end. That's all I am. I'm just trying to make it out here. But for me, you tell me if I'm right in this. To me, when the Browns, and this has been for 4 years, when the Browns get in shotgun, most people believe shotgun is an easier position and formation to throw the football, right? But now that I watch, I'm starting to think different. I'm starting to think that play action and under center throws are easier because there's a threat of the run. When you're in shotgun, I think the Browns are something like 75% pass in shotgun. They don't really run it well out of shotgun. So sometimes I'm looking at it from a perspective of people say, well, put him back in the shotgun and let him do what he did at Clemson. But I think it's harder in the NFL to throw the ball out of shotgun because they know what it is when that's happening.
Yeah, I would agree with that to a certain extent. I think, if you're on first and second down passing when it's kind of, the down and distances where you can run the ball or throw the ball, I do prefer to be under center because, like you said, it does give, you can do play action. You can do so much more in the run game off of that. When you're in shotgun, you're pretty much limited to a few little runs. Your playbook shrinks a little bit and as far as the run game goes. But, if it's a clear throwing down, if it's 3rd and 7 and you got to have it, I prefer to be in that shotgun. It gives you a little clearer picture as a quarterback. You can kind of see the defense a little better if you step back away from it. And, you just so there's benefits to both. I do think you do have to find that balance there, though, and keep teams guessing a little bit. If you're going to line up and throw it 75% out of shotgun, that's pretty easy to determine. When you get in that formation, it's probably going to be passed. So, I love the play action stuff. I think Deshaun is really good at that as well. I think he feels comfortable being under center. A lot of quarterbacks these days, they've played in these systems in high school where it's all spread and it's all shotgun and they don't even know how to take snaps from center, how to do 3-step drops, 5-step drops, 7-step drops. It's kind of a lost art as far as the quarterback position goes. But I think Deshaun is really good at that. I think he feels comfortable in that play action game, and obviously with Chubb in there, it's very it's a good weapon to have. To be able to play fake it to somebody like that, you're going to get a lot of draw from the defense and hopefully get some big plays down the field.
So let's say you lost your mind and took the job as Browns quarterback's coach and left the glamorous life that you have. What would you say? How would you coach Deshaun this week, and what would you tell him to get him ready, coming off of that performance and getting him ready for Cincinnati?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think there's, I'm sure they're having those talks in the meetings right now. For me, I would probably just tell him to, try to relax. I know you can't go out there and prove that you're Deshaun Watson and you're fully back in one throw. Just let the game come to you. Don't be afraid to take these check downs. Let's get him going with some screen passes. Let's get him, hopefully Njoku is back this week. You get some easy throws to the tight end. Once you start feeling, seeing the ball get complete, it's like a free throw shooter. You see the ball go through the net. If you're struggling shooting one night, or you get an easy layup, or you get some free throws to go in, you start seeing it go in. You start getting confidence, and you start feeling like, okay, I'm back now. I can start throwing balls. I can start completing passes again. So I would get him as many easy completions as I could, especially early on in those first 15 plays in the script. Easy throws, nothing where he's going to have to hold the ball, not taking negative plays and sacks. So, the coaches have to really, focus on that and getting him comfortable within the game. And as the game goes on, hopefully he starts to feel, more like himself, and we can start to see the accuracy come back a little bit.
Tim, we talked about this on our post-game show yesterday, but we grade everything here. We grade performances, we grade seasons. I gave Watson a D for his performance yesterday. Bull gave him an F. G gave him a C. I'm curious.
Come on.
How would you grade Deshaun Watson in his
C
first?
minus.
You gave him a C minus.
C minus, excuse me. G. Bush gave him a C minus. How would you grade Deshaun Watson's first performance as a Cleveland Browns starter?
Yeah, I'm probably more in that C minus area. I think, I thought he was seeing the field well. I think he was going to the right spot with the ball. It just wasn't getting there. And, I really wasn't too surprised about this. I said, last week, a guy who's hasn't played in 2 years and you're trying to step back out on the NFL field and play. Thankfully he was playing against the Texans. If, he was playing against a really good defense, this would have looked awful. But they were able to make a few plays here and there. And, you saw flashes of Deshaun Watson. You saw, you threw a couple of nice balls on crossing routes and things like that. But I thought he was seeing the field well. He looked like he, understood the offense. He was in command of the offense. Now you just want to start seeing what we're used to seeing from him out on the field. And like I said, it's just going to take time. It's going to take reps. So it's just going to be a process all season long and getting his feet back underneath him.
The Donovan Peoples-Jones punt return for a touchdown, Tim, was obviously big because the Browns were losing the game as well as their defense. They were down 5-0, and they get that touchdown there by DPJ. It was you're looking at me like I'm crazy, Jason. No,
No, correct.
Did I have that wrong?
No.
Okay, so that was their first touchdown.
my normal
wasn't it?
look.
I'm like doubting myself that was their first touchdown. I mean, his performance as a return guy. I mean, he just seems to get better every week. Last year he was very shaky as a return guy, but he's been so much better this year.
He has. That was a huge play in the game. We haven't had a punt return in a long time for a touchdown that I can remember. So, it was a big play at a big point in the game. It kind of got the momentum going back in the Browns' direction. He's come a long way as a wide receiver as well. I think he's obviously a super talented guy, and he really has stepped up this year. You kind of wondered where that production was going to come from, other than Amari Cooper. Which one of these receivers was going to step up and kind of take a little pressure off of Amari? And I think Donovan Peoples-Jones has done a great job of that. He's a reliable guy. He makes tough catches, and he's good with the ball in his hand, run after catch. So he's coming along nicely as a player, and I'm certainly excited about his future.
Yeah, Peoples-Jones, I think the punt return aspect of his game is really what has enabled his confidence to grow. And that has translated over to him as a receiver. You look at him, he got 600+ yards. He's knocking on the door of 1,000-yard receiving. He get in these last 5 games, he get out these last 5 games. He'll be knocking on 1,000 yards, which you think about it. Before we were talking about he was invisible. He was on a milk carton. And not on a milk carton anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's playing well. Absolutely.
Tim, when you're looking at a defense, how do you grade defensively? How can you tell the difference between they're figuring this out and no, they're just playing a team of walk-ons?
Yeah, I think you have to look at the fundamentals. How are they tackling? How are their pursuit angles? Are they getting pressure on the quarterback? Are they creating turnovers? Those kind of things that, you want to look for. And I see a more disciplined team over the last few weeks. Early in the season, we saw a lot of blown coverages, a lot of miscommunication on the back end and the secondary. I'm seeing less and less of that as the season goes on. So that's certainly encouraging. I see better tackling. The tackling was absolutely horrendous in the first few weeks of the season. So I see guys, wrapping up a little more, taking better angles, getting more hats to the football. So I see improvement. I certainly do. They had nowhere to go but up because those first few weeks were just absolutely horrendous. Especially late game situations, crunch time situations. They're starting to communicate better, and everyone trying to get on the same page a little more.
Tim, I think this is a game where. This is if you want to talk about going 6-0, I think you'll figure out if that's real or not right here. What type of game do they have to play against the Bengals to make that a reality? Obviously, coming off the Chiefs game, what do they have to do, or what type of shot do they have against the Bengals?
Well, I think they have a good shot. I think the Browns have had a lot of good history against Joe Burrow. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think Burrow's ever beat the Browns in his career. I may be wrong on that, but I know he's struggled a little bit against the Browns.
You're right.
Yeah, so you got to feel confidence in that they have a good game plan for him for whatever reason each time they play him. He is a division opponent, so they see him, they know his game, they know their offense well, so they can come up with a game plan to hopefully slow him down a little bit. Obviously, you got to slow down those wide receivers who are great. He's got playmakers all over the field. They'll probably get Mixon back for this game as well. So they're an explosive team, man. They're a great offense. And, so you have to match that offensively. The Browns have to, find a way to put some points on the board. They got to get some explosive plays in the passing game. It can't just be Nick Chubb out there. It has to be some guys, stepping up and creating some big plays in the pass game, putting points on the board. And obviously, it has to be a big jump from what they did against the Texans yesterday. It's going to have to be a much better offensive performance if they're going to stay on the field with the Bengals.
Tim, do you? I'm sure you've thought about this a million times, but somebody asked me about this on Friday, so I just wanted to run it by you because it was about you. I had a fan ask me on Friday how good a career Tim Couch would have had he played for a better franchise. How often do you still think about that to this day? Like what, obviously you had a career in the NFL, but if you played for a better franchise, we've seen it with other players. Who knows? You never know what would have happened, I guess. Do you think about that a lot, or what do you think would have happened had you played for a better franchise?
I try not to. But I think certainly, I have to believe that, in a better situation, my career would have been a lot longer. Coming into the league as the number one pick in the draft, I certainly thought I would still be maybe just kind of retiring right now. I thought I would be a 15 to 20-year player in the league. I loved the game so much. They would have had to take me out on a cart. I wanted to play so long. That's all I do. It's who I am. I'm a football player, and that's all I knew and all I ever wanted to be. So, I think in a better situation, I think anybody that looks at the 1999 expansion Cleveland Browns can say that's a horrible situation for any quarterback to be placed in. And not many guys are, if any, could have success long term in that situation. The Browns still really haven't found an answer at that position. Hopefully they have now in Deshaun, but it's just kind of been a struggle there for whatever reason. So certainly I look at it and think about it from time to time. If I would have been with this guy or that guy, Andy Reid had the second pick in the draft that year and took Donovan McNabb at Philadelphia. If I would have just fallen into that, that would have probably been a better situation for me. But at the end of the day, I always wanted to be a Brown. I grew up close to Ohio here in Kentucky, so I grew up watching Bernie Kosar and those great teams, and I wanted to be part of that that history and that tradition, and just wish it was a little better situation for me.
What is your relationship like with Bernie these days, by the way? We had dinner, G and I had dinner with him and Leroy Horde recently, and we love just getting a chance to chit-chat with Bernie. What's your relationship like with him?
We have a great relationship, actually. We talk all the time. We got to do the Browns preseason games a few years ago. We were working together on that. So Bernie's I've known him since I first got to Cleveland. So over 20 years now. He's been a mentor to me and somebody I would always bounce a lot of questions off of. So I have nothing but respect for Bernie and appreciate his friendship. And I'm glad we're still able to be close after all these years.
Speaking of former Browns quarterbacks, Baker asked for and received his release today from the Panthers. He'll get to choose his next team. What would you tell him? How would you counsel him on where to go from here?
I didn't know that. First of all, that's I just didn't know that. But I think if I had to tell Baker anything, it would be make sure you go into the right situation for you. I think he was in a really good situation in Cleveland with a lot of talent around him. He just unfortunately had a lot of injuries there in his last year, but he had that team going in the right direction. From when he got there, when he took over, it was a team that hadn't won a game or maybe won one game in the previous couple years, and he got them to the playoffs. So, he did some impressive things in Cleveland, but it was just so up and down and so inconsistent. I would tell him just to go to a place where you're going to be surrounded by as much talent as possible, because I think Baker can still play at this level. I think he's a good quarterback, but he has to be in the right situation. He has to have a lot of weapons around him, as most quarterbacks do. I think he has to have the right system, those kind of things. So certainly be selective about where you go, and try not to lose confidence. I know it's tough. I went around to a couple teams as well. When you're the number one pick in the draft like Baker was as well, and you get cut from your team that drafted you, it's pretty humbling thing, and then you go to a situation like Carolina where everyone knew that wasn't going to be a good fit for him. You kind of have to swallow a little pride and check your ego a little bit and kind of take a step back and realize you have to work your way back up to this. So just get in the best situation possible, get yourself healthy, and try to make another run at being a starting quarterback in this league.
Tim, we appreciate the time.
Wait. I got one more thing for Tim. Yeah. Tim, in a one-word answer, what's the one most important skill a quarterback can have? Is it anticipation, reading a defense? What's the one most important thing? And I'll show you where I'm going with this in 1 second.
Yeah, probably. I can't put it into one word, but just processing. It's processing information. How quickly can you process information?
Okay, well, I'm going to translate that to being a producer here. You've been on the show every week since we started. This is the crispest your shot has ever looked, which means you definitely got the iPhone 14 Max Pro for Christmas last week. Are you using a different device? It isn't the iPhone 14 Max Pro. If so, I'm leaving. I need a raise, Steve.
It is the 14 Max Pro. I was using my computer for whatever reason. My computer wouldn't work today, so I had to throw my phone on there.
Yeah.
So,
well, how can it be for Christmas? Christmas hasn't happened yet.
Well, it came early, but that new camera on the 14 Max Pro is apparently better than like our cameras in studio. Look how crisp Tim is.
It is pretty crisp.
It's unbelievably
You're right.
crisp.
We need to set these cell phones up. Can we get a cell phone tower in here?
Let's go.
I've been trying to get one. They're on back order until February.
Well, our
now,
internet
so I had
sucks
to
in
ask
here
Tim.
too. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
all right, thanks, guys. See you next week.
You notice how the Nuggets be putting themselves on the same level? I couldn't get my hands on one of those. Who would have
You
figured?
get your hands
Tim
on.
Couch.
I mean, his name is Timothy Couch.
Oh my God, he's
and
the
he's
biggest
back home in
star in
Kentucky.
Kentucky.
What are you talking about?
By the way, I'm getting reports that the reason Baker wanted to be released is because he didn't have enough time to play Call of Duty. Anybody got background on that? I'm saying that's a legitimate tweet right there. He needed more time for Call of Duty.
You son of a you dirty.
If you ever wonder what bull off the top rope looks like, there it is.
I ain't going back in the Baker, but I will remind. I said, all you had to do was just mind his business here. That's all he had to do. Just be quiet. Just mind your
Well,
business.
thank God he didn't because Jacoby Brissett played pretty well.
He
Guys,
kicking himself.
yeah, Donovan Peoples-Jones, I mentioned it during the interview with Tim. He does have a chance at a 1,000-yard season.
Yeah.
He's become a factor in punt returns, which, a lot of teams don't have a factor in punt returns. And especially when you look at the Browns' kick returns, because Jerome Ford, he's a rookie, he hasn't played much. He looked like a complete stiff as a kick returner. Looked like a stiff when they gave him a chance to run the ball yesterday.
I mean, come on. He's had a couple good kick returns.
I like his burst.
I don't like him taking it out of the end zone. You take it out of the end zone, you better get past the 25-yard line.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
All right, don't be getting stop running at the 17 to look for where I got to go. But Donovan Peoples-Jones is a legit factor on this team. He has got to be. If you look at, how for Manager of the Year in baseball, we vote for the guy who not had the best season, but exceeded expectations the most.
What you got? 5 games left?
5 games.
5 games left.
5 games.
He needs to average about 70
If he has
receiving yards.
7 yards a game, he can do it.
He'll get there.
He'll probably
Especially with the extra
probably
game.
end up between 900 and 1,000
He
yards.
can do it.
For a team that, for all the complaints, is still runs more than most teams
Well, you better
do.
check his contract, see if he get paid 1,000 yards.
Yeah, I don't think.
You know what they do in
but
the
I don't know.
pros.
Rookie contracts don't have incentives.
He's unrestricted, right?
Look, G.
No, this is only his third year.
He has
got
one more year after this.
G, when you're on a losing team in the pros and you got them incentives, they keep an
That's
eye
true.
on them.
They do.
Are you not getting the plays your
listen.
way?
Do we think
Tight end sets? No.
Well, let me ask you guys this: is there obviously he's at the very least he's a solid number 2 wide receiver. Okay, maybe do we think there's even another level? If Deshaun, I think we all assume by next year Deshaun Watson will be Deshaun Watson again, right? If that happens, can Donovan Peoples-Jones become a 1,200-yard receiver?
I think.
Can he really become a legit quality number 2, or are you still going to be looking for another wide receiver?
No, they need another wide receiver to make him the top level he's going to be. I think he can get to 1,250, 1,300 in a good year. In a good year, but you need a supreme deep threat. Because a lot of his routes that he's running, he ain't open on them deep reps. That's not his game. He don't create separation over the top. He underneath stuff, he good. He can catch the ball, solid hands.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper, good. Pristine route runner. But if I've always looked at this offense, they've always been missing a deep threat playmaker. And Anthony Schwartz, God bless his soul. God bless his soul. He tries. He look like he's a solid kid, but his nickname is Paper Mache.
He's a non-factor going forward.
His new name is.
What's his name?
At least he caught it yesterday. He caught the ball.
No.
That was your best tweet in a long time,
What's his
Jason.
name?
That was a really good tweet.
What is his name?
Paper Mache,
Paper Mache.
a.k.a. Mr. Origami. This guy's the softest I've seen. He's soft. Boy, he saw the DB try to tackle him. He saw it. He had an opportunity to brace himself, but he was like, I don't know. I'm going to give this up. He's like, almost Debo, I'm going to tuck my chain in. Bro, you saw him coming, and he still took it from you.
He saw Debo coming?
But he caught it.
He
He caught it.
He caught it. Yeah. I was happy, then I was sad.
Did you say he saw Debo coming?
He saw Debo, I'm going to tuck mine in.
Why?
Jason, you still think they need a wide receiver too?
Yeah. I mean, well, listen. If Njoku's healthy, if Amari Cooper's there and DBJ's there, you're in a pretty good spot.
I think you
with
do
those
need
three.
one more wide
I still think David Bell's going to emerge.
So let me ask you a question. Would you trade in? And I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is coming as a receiver. But I trade him in for Jackson Smith and Jigba. Yes, I would. Because he's a playmaker.
But why
How we going to get
I'm just talking
how we gonna get him?
I'm talking about a playmaker.
Oh, God, yeah.
A playmaker.
Yeah, but
because Cooper is a precision route runner, right? But he's not the playmaker, right? Justin Jefferson, that's a playmaker. Chase is a playmaker.
Well, he was drafted in the 6th round. Nobody's expecting him to be that kind of player.
When you have a guy on the other side of a supreme route runner, you better have a playmaker, right?
Yeah, I do think in the long term they do need one more wide receiver in the mix.
Well, you're not going to find him in the draft because you don't have a number 1 pick, and you need to spend your 2nd round pick on defensive tackles.
There you go.
So you better look through trade and free
My
agency.
man at Washington for Ohio State, he wasn't no top draft pick.
McLaurin? Wait, where did he go in? I don't even know. I don't remember.
Listen,
I thought he was pretty high. I thought he was high.
Here, I'll tell you another one.
But McLaurin ain't Jefferson or Chase either.
Paris Campbell at Indiana, he becoming a playmaker.
I'll take. Listen,
wasn't McLaurin a 2nd round pick?
I'll take.
McLaurin was a 3rd round pick.
I'll take Curtis Samuel. Can we get somebody like that?
He's all right.
But we always saying
Donovan Peoples-Jones at this point, I'd rather have than Curtis Samuel.
I like.
We don't need to get rid of Donovan.
No.
I ain't say that.
We're trying to add to that. But by the way, I will say this: there was a Kareem Hunt signing. Sighting, yeah, right. We haven't seen Kareem Hunt in a minute. And I thought he played well last game.
He did.
I thought he played well.
In the second half Sunday, there seemed to me a complete shift in, okay, listen, this is worse than we thought. Or maybe it was as bad. I don't know. But it was bad. So let's go back to the Jacoby offense. They went jumbo. They went jumbo on the first play of the 3rd quarter, and they just ran the ball.
You know what the play splits were, by the way, in the second half?
I knew he threw 8 passes.
3 runs to 8 passes.
Yeah, I knew he threw 8 passes.
To all the
in the
run the
second
damn
half.
ball people, that was your half of football. I hope you liked it.
Bro, Jason just hit on the funniest thing, the truest thing I've ever heard in my life. He acknowledges that there are 2 different playbooks, right? And Kevin Stefanski had all intents and purposes to come in here and run that 2nd playbook.
It looked that way.
And then, matter of fact, he even invited his kids. His kids was there. His family was there to see the unveiling of this top-notch Kevin Stefanski playbook. And he was like halfway through, oh, this ain't going to work. This is not going to work. And he's like, hey, Jacoby. It's like Jacoby had his helmet on tough. Yeah. I was like, why is Jacoby?
Well, Jacoby played one play.
and by the way, I thought that was a terrible call.
It was one of the worst.
Oh, you bring him in and run a tight end reverse. I mean, it worked, so everybody loved it. But I was thinking that going, oh, my God, if this doesn't work, he's going to get destroyed for
He was telling his wife at home, watch this, babe. You'll never guess what this coming here.
I said, why does he have his helmet on?
I was like, why is he?
Now, Zach sat in the stands yesterday. Zach Jackson bought a ticket in the 3rd, 4th row right behind the Browns sideline and watched the game from the stands. And his whole point was watch
Deshaun. Oh, they don't give you
Deshaun.
tickets? You had to buy a ticket?
Well, we expensed it.
Yeah.
We expensed
you
it.
bought a ticket. I don't care if you expensed it. You bought the ticket.
Bought a ticket to sit in the stands, 4th row right behind the Browns sideline.
Let's get media pass.
And we had this idea back when we thought it was going to be a lot more hostile environment. So it obviously didn't turn out to be that. But one thing that Zach noticed in watching Deshaun was how much he was relying on Jacoby yesterday.
That's all.
And he said, like, at one point even, like, Jacoby was giving him the signs from the sideline, and then Deshaun gave the same sign at the line of scrimmage. So really, Jacoby was heavily involved in preparing Deshaun, both in the week leading up to and in the game yesterday. Deshaun was really leaning on Jacoby.
I think listen, and I was someone who thought there was going to be rust. But I think we all severely underestimated that not only is it 2 years, but it's a new team, it's a new offense, it's a new everything. He's never played before yesterday outside of 8 preseason snaps with any of these guys, any of them. So, I mean, if you combine the 2 things, not to mention all the off-the-field stuff, which who knows how he's handling it mentally right now, coming back for the first time. He's swimming right now a little bit, and we should have probably realized that was going to be there. Now, maybe it all goes away in 1 week, but I find that hard to believe.
Well, let me tell you this. This is
you don't go through throwing it in the dirt to
I remember
like
the first time when I was playing as a freshman, we played against Iowa State. They had Seneca Wallace at the time. And I remember being at the line of scrimmage, and you don't really know how big these linemen is until you be like, I'm 6'5". These dudes is like 6'7", 340. So you can't even really see the quarterback. And the scariest part about it is when they call a play in the huddle, your mind blanks. You're like, hold on, what do I do on this play? And it's scary because you know, rain, sleet, or snow, they about to come snap this ball in 5 seconds, and you have no clue where to go. So there's this level of panic in your stomach. Like, it's the panic of, I would think, if you're a parent and you lose your kid in the grocery store, and you look around like, Johnny, are you in the meat section? And you can't find them? That's the same panic. And so for me, I only move 1 or 2 gaps. All I got to do is just rush upfield. If push comes to shove, do something fast. But if you're a quarterback and you get to the line of scrimmage and you're like, all right, I don't remember how to audible out of this play. I don't know what it's called. Right. And what am I going to do next? Oh, you know what? I don't know. It's just slow.
It's the processing. And the one thing I said, I don't want you to underestimate this. You cannot emulate two edge rushers coming to crush your skull.
That's right.
You cannot.
That's right.
Emulate that. You can't do it in practice. You can't do it at the high school field where you was training.
No.
It is, and 700 days until you get that cadence down again.
Right.
I was thinking about it like basketball, right? I was thinking about when Jordan came back, right? Jordan had the luxury of going to training camp, and he's playing every day, but he's playing real people at a high speed. He may not be playing game speed, but you're pretty much there. You can't chase. You can't simulate that edge rusher coming to knock your head off.
Well, but not to mention, Brad, Michael Jordan is the greatest player ever, and
he struggled when he came back.
He did, but he was playing with the same team at least, right? So he knew the guys.
And when he was shooting Space Jam, he had all of the top stars coming out there just, hey, come play with me so I can steal some of your game. Right. He was scouting. Let me see if you done got better, because that's scary coming back and you playing these monsters. Yeah, think about it. I mean, the Rockets won 2 championships. I mean, Hakeem Olajuwon at that point in time was probably the best player in the world. Yeah. And he's like, they didn't won 2. And that's why I go back before for LeBron and Jordan all the time. I will say some of the stuff that Jordan was doing was very impressive. For you to come back and to play a young athletic Shaq, to come back and deny the Rockets an opportunity to do what they was doing.
So progress to me for Deshaun Watson this weekend would be keep the balls out the dirt and look like the game is slowing, because it looked like the game was so fast for him yesterday.
Yes.
I just want to see some signs that it's slowing down, and now you're not delivering the balls in the dirt, right? Because I don't think you can knock off that amount of rust, Bull, in a week. You can't.
Not to mention you're going from playing the worst team in football to one of the 5 best teams in football. That's a huge difference.
Are you guys concerned with him using his legs more? Because there is a risk.
Ran it 7 times.
It's a risk reward. 7 for 21 ain't bad, but I don't know if they think, okay, well he ain't there this way. Let's utilize his legs more and give him that Justin Fields.
I'm not
playbook.
concerned about it.
I don't think you can't operate that way, because that's a big part of his game.
Yeah.
So you can't take that away. You need, if anything, that may help get him back into rhythm. So I don't think you can run from that.
I think when he broke out on one run yesterday, he shook a guy on his own. He was like, I'm gonna shake, and that's just natural. He just knew what to do, right? And I think, and that's why I said when he took that blow, and he got up. Now that makes me feel better, because he's like, if I'm him, I'm like, oh, I survived it.
Yeah,
I'm good.
I can take a hit.
Guys, go ahead.
I was going to say, level of concern with 10 being panic, 1 being no concern, level of concern right now about the offensive line.
I'm not panicking, but
6 and a half.
I'm
7.
concerned.
So,
right?
Okay.
And, I know we've had injuries, and instead of no continuity here, so I'm not concerned.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned to this standpoint here. I can't let Deshaun Watson get killed in the last 5 games.
That's right.
I cannot.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm going to do everything I can to make sure he doesn't get killed, because I told you, I'm not playing for this year. I'm just playing this out. What happens, happens. But I'm really playing for next year.
There's two guys that really scare me. And one of them ain't going to be here anyway. So Conklin's not going to be here. I feel like the injuries have really hurt Conklin's his athletic ability. And one of the reasons he was really good is because he's built long, slender. He's almost the size of a left tackle. However, he plays on the right side. So I think his injuries have stripped him away of a lot of his leverage. And when you don't have leverage, you don't have the ability to get low enough to group people out. On that goal line play, when they got that safety, he got destroyed. It was bad. He got walked into the backfield.
And it's not like the Texans have a good D-line.
And it's like you said, it's not like they got anybody of consequence up there.
Yeah.
And the guy, Jedrick Wills, and I talked to Joe Thomas about this. He came on the Locked On Browns podcast. He said, the alarming thing for Jedrick Wills is sometimes it seems like he doesn't know what he's doing as far as assignment or who he's blocking or who he has in the scheme of things, right?
How can that even be?
That's why I said, how's that a fact? And he says, and the problem is, instead of him going to the whistle and finding somebody to hit and finding somebody to be aggressive with, he tends to stop. And the play's still going on. And now instead of your guys hitting the back, and the other guy you could have blocked or you could have went on to kind of move to the next level, he's in on the tackle.
Yeah.
And he doesn't, he's like, I don't understand why he stops in the middle of plays like that. That's disturbing to me.
You know what's interesting looking forward this week? A big part of the reason why the Browns have dominated the Bengals, and I'll just look at the two matchups with Burrow the last 2 years, is because the Browns in those two games have dominated the line of scrimmage, both sides. But right now, you have a Browns offensive line that's playing its worst football in years, and a Bengals offensive line that's playing its best football in years. You have a Browns defensive line that really brings nothing to the table outside of Myles Garrett, and a Bengals offensive line that's peaking now with their best run stopper back. And I think Sam Hubbard, the former Buckeye, I've been lukewarm on him in his career. He's playing his best football, and Trey Hendrickson may be the most underrated pass rusher in the entire NFL. That's been the difference. I'm going to be curious to see, because the Bengals have not been able to figure out how to stop. Like, Myles Garrett looks like the best. He plays his best games against the Bengals. Yeah. And they haven't figured out a way to stop him. They don't do a lot, for whatever reason. Their left tackle's is probably their biggest weak spot. So it's going to be interesting in the trench.
I'm going to say this.
Yeah.
I'll give you this, and this is a little scary. It's food for thought. Joe Bitonio is 31. You go down the list.
And he's their best guy. Wyatt Teller's not playing well right now, coming off the injury.
Jack Conklin's 28.
He's going to be gone at the end of the year.
And he's going to be gone at the end of the year. You keep going down the list, and you keep finding.
Who would have thought the Pochich injury would be that big a deal? But it has been. It seems like.
Chris Hudson, 31.
Hubbard. Chris
Hubbard. Yeah, 31. You look at some of these guys. Teller is 30. Wyatt Teller. Oh no, excuse me. Wyatt Teller is 28. But he has a calf
injury prone. He missed time every year.
Yeah, the calf I think is a little bit of a concern with him.
Yeah.
But so there's two ways to look at it. The Posick thing was bad. I mean, they're down to their fourth string center now.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that, and Posick was on a 1-year deal, but he played so well. I was talking to him the other day about it. He'd love to come back next year.
Yeah.
He chose the Browns in part because of their strength staff, because of Bill Callahan and all that.
Yeah.
So now, next year you have a choice to make it center, Nick Harris or Ethan Posick. And Harris has experience at guard.
Yeah.
So I'll be curious. We're getting way ahead of ourselves now, but I'll be curious to see how this center thing shakes out next year in terms of which way they go, Posick or Nick Harris, and then the guy who doesn't start at center, where is he going?
Right. Are they moving on from one of the guards to save some money?
I've talked about that. You can't pay these guards $30 million when you're paying Deshaun $45 million. There's going to come
Bitonio's the best, but Teller's younger.
So
Teller's been more injury prone.
So what's your real quick before you make a point? What's your ideal? We'll go around the horn. But what's your ideal scenario, assuming financially everything can work out? How would you want to see the interior of the Browns' offensive line look next year?
Well, I would. If I'm not factoring in money, I'd want to keep Pochich at center. Nick Harris has potential, but Pochich played well.
Right.
Yeah, we got tape on him. And plus, I could use Harris as a platoon guy. I could use him I would say he could play at guard, which he can, But next year, you're going to have to get Hudson together, ready to play, because I presume he's your right tackle.
Hudson's going to be your right tackle next year, I would imagine.
So for me, I would bring him. I would like him, Harris. I like Pochich, and I keep the rest of the guys if we don't have no money involved. But if money is involved, man, that's rough. Like Teller is great, but the unintended consequences of running the football that much is the fact that you are putting a lot of wear and tear on them guys.
Yeah.
And linemen usually are pass blocking. If you look at the analytics, I would be happy to see or fascinated to see what analytics say about what it does to your offensive line compared to the rest of the people in the league who usually don't have this much pounding.
The Bitonio one's tricky because he might be the best guard in football, but guards don't usually hold up deep into their 30s.
No, not really.
Don't make me pick between Wyatt Teller and Joel Bitonio.
If I had to pick, even though Teller's younger, I think I'd stick with Bitonio. I think it's because in the end he's better.
Right.
And Teller's been injury prone, and Bitonio has not.
Yeah. I mean, but
I don't want to. That's a terrible situation to be in.
I don't want to have to pick between them.
Because those are your two best offensive linemen by far.
And by the way, you really might have to pick because you got to get 2 D tackles and another end because I don't think Clowney's coming back.
No.
Money is an issue this offseason, and Jason's alluded to this a number of times on this show.
Right. And
they have a lot of tough decisions to make this season.
They do.
Some of the better players on the team will not be here now.
And that is the secret of what they call being the general manager.
Right.
Well, and you have to get all your other picks right. You can't blow it with these mid-round picks.
There are no unlimited budgets here.
And there's
decisions to be made.
Yeah.
I would tell you this. I'm keeping Poachers. I'm keeping Nick. I'm keeping Bitonio. Just Will's got to go. We can't do this dance no more. You know what I'm saying? You got to solve some issues. And you may have to find somebody off a scrap heap, right?
Like
that's hard to do with left tackle.
If you
here's something. Let me throw this at you
real quick as we're talking about the cap. I think they'll be okay this year. Or I'm sorry, next year.
Yeah.
It's the year after I think where they're really going to.
But let me ask you this: I wonder. I don't think they're going to move on from Jedrick Wills, but I wonder if they would consider moving Jedrick Wills to right tackle.
I threw that out.
And
Hudson
whether it's Hudson at left or if there's somebody, you can get a good offensive lineman in the second round, third round. It happens all the time. If they see somebody they really like that they think can be a left tackle, I don't know.
It's hard to find a premier left tackle in the second round.
Fair, that's fair.
If they moved on from, say, Teller or Bitonio, would they be willing to move him to guard?
Well, I mean, the conversation, if you really want to move Wills, to me, is you go to Joel and ask him again, are you willing to play left tackle? And they went down this road before, I believe, and Joel was too comfortable at guard, and they didn't want to mess with a good thing.
I wouldn't. At his age, am I going to ask him to move to tackle?
But I'm just saying, if you're trying to, that's a Band-Aid on the situation. If you're really unhappy with Wills, that solves your dilemma because now Bitonio's your left guard, Harris can be your left.
I think if I had to bet today, I would say their starting offensive line week 1, assuming health, is Wills at left tackle, Bitonio at left guard, Pochich at center, Teller at right guard, and Hudson at right tackle.
I would agree with that. And Harris as a backup. I would agree because I think they're going to move on from Chris Hubbard.
Right.
I have a question for you guys real quick, though, about this. And G. Bush, you said earlier, we saw Myles Garrett move around the line. He was in the middle at times yesterday. He was attacking a lot against the Texans' right tackle because Laramie Tunsil on the left is really good. With how frequently defensive coordinators move around premier pass rushers, not always on that right end going against the left tackle now, is it as important to have an elite left tackle as opposed to right tackle? Because it always used to be the left tackle was better than the right tackle.
Well, but the left tackle is protecting the blind side of the quarterback.
But with Watson, who scrambles around and is as mobile
I still
as
think
he
it's
is.
important, G, as the former D lineman here.
I think left tackle. I think it's the gap has decreased.
No doubt.
It's shrunk a little bit, but I would still prefer my best left tackle at left tackle because you got to think about it. There's a lot of runs that go that way. Like the tendencies in the league, running behind left tackles is just higher. Like it just is what it is. Now, could you have a guy at right tackle that could potentially play left? Sure, because they blitz from both different positions. But I would still like to have a higher quality left tackle. And I think that's just one of the reasons you see it is you're not seeing those holes on the outside like you used to seeing. Like they're just not there. They're doing a lot of zone up the middle because they don't trust Jedrick Wills to try to reach somebody. He can't because he's going to either hold or he's going to grab somebody because he's just not having good footwork right now against those edge defenders.
And I do think that still from an injury perspective, like a lot of times when you see these catastrophic injuries to quarterbacks, it happens when they get hit from the blind side.
Yeah.
They don't see it coming and they get hit. So that to me is why I still think it's important.
I just go back to the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. They had Mitchell Schwartz on the right side, who we got to get Mitchell back on soon. By the way, we got to.
I thought he was good.
He was a great player.
But he was the right tackle. Their left tackle was always a rotating door of veterans, and they always said because Mahomes scrambles, it wasn't as important. It is not scrambles, but he doesn't stay in the pocket traditionally like a pocket passer, so it wasn't as important. So with Watson's ability to move around and move the pocket,
or maybe they just said that because they couldn't find a left tackle.
Yeah, that's very true too. And Mitchell Schwartz happened to be one of the best right tackles.
Yeah. Exactly.
It'll be worth. I'll reach out to Mitchell this week. I'll see if we get him back on.
Yeah, I missed that when he was here. I think that was when I had COVID or something. Maybe I was on vacation.
No, you were on your vacation week. You were in Seattle.
Yeah. Okay. So, but anyway, so yeah. Well, we'll get back to long term next year. By the way, I thought it was interesting. Jay Feely on the broadcast, he had tweeted this, but he confirmed it yesterday on the broadcast where he said, "Hey, Cade York's problems are not on the holder."
Yeah, he did say
it
that.
Was Cade. He showed that was really good. He showed his mechanical issues. I thought it was important for Cade York. Had a good day yesterday. Made all 5 of his kicks.
Yeah,
because he's a talented. It's clear he's a talented player. But he's, with the kickers, it's always about the mental hurdles and some of the mechanics, which Jay Feely is as qualified as anybody to point out.
And I just don't understand why these teams don't go and hire. I'm not saying it has to be Jay Feely, but get a former kicker and bring him on as a consultant.
Well, I think some of the problem, Jason, is this for York. It's he seems to kick very well when the conditions are well defined. So he was in that turf yesterday.
Indoors.
It was indoors. He was spot on. It's when he hits the conditions that he's unfamiliar with. He like all over. He like a bad golfer,
and
right? You
fairness,
don't know what he's gonna tee the ball.
In fairness, his home stadium is one of the toughest in the league to kick, especially at that end toward the lake. And it's just.
But that's why they drafted him because they thought he could handle that.
And he can. I think he can. But there's still got to go through it a couple of times, and you still have to learn the wind. And I think I talked about this on the show before. I was talking to him. Like the wind changes from the first quarter to the third quarter, and all you have is those 2 flags at the top of the upright, and you got to figure it out. And just because the ball went one way in warm-ups or went one way at halftime doesn't mean it's going to do the same exact thing 15, 20 minutes later. So it's really difficult, but you're right. That's why they drafted him. He's going to have to figure it out, and I think he will.
Yeah, this week to me is going to be big because when you're looking to upset a team, right? You're looking to go into Cincinnati, get a win. You need all things to happen the right way, right? Especially when you got a quarterback that is not comfortable and you're kind of compromised. And I don't want to start nothing. I don't want to say, CG Bush, why you do this? Why you do this? To be honest with you, if the Browns was like, and they'll never do this, but to be honest with you, even at this point, if you had Jacoby Brissett playing the Bengals, they have a better chance of winning.
Are you saying this coming Sunday?
Yes, just for one game. You have a better shot to win this game with Jacoby Brissett. And I don't think anybody would argue that. But it's not about, they keep saying it about this year. If you look at it, the trajectory.
You're not advocating for playing.
I'm not advocating for playing. But if we were realistic and you said, all right, we got he's playing at a higher because he has the reps, because he's familiar. When I saw Jacoby on the sideline, like coaching him up a little bit, Jacoby was like, "No, you could." Smiling a little bit. Yeah, I know you saw that, but not this way. And the way he was explaining it, if Jacoby Brissett was behind center against the Bengals, he gives them, I would say, by a fairly decent amount, a better chance to win the game.
I don't know.
Because he's still familiar.
Give me the better talented quarterback every time.
But here's the thing.
Every time.
If the better, here's the hope. Your hope, the better talent can multiply those reps and get better and accelerate way faster than the journeyman. But if you look at the way Jacoby was throwing the ball and you look at the way that Watson was throwing the ball, everybody sees that right now. He's throwing the ball better.
Here, look at Mary Kay's comment right here. What are you talking about? They're committed to Deshaun Watson. We're developing Deshaun Watson.
Of course,
going
that's all that
forward.
matters.
So why are we even talking about this?
Yeah.
Because we're not going back the other way.
But he's not. I understand what he's saying. He's not saying you should play.
No.
That he might. I don't think it's a crazy argument. I disagree, but I don't think it's a crazy argument to make. And I don't think it's not as big a difference as we would have thought it was because Deshaun Watson's not Deshaun Watson yet.
So, G,
but obviously, there's no discussion.
Are you playing,
not playing him would be crazy.
You're playing for, I guess my understanding is, what are you playing for? I'm playing for the investment I made here for this team to get better, right? And I'm only going to get better with the better talent. So I got to get the better talent work. He got to get reps. He got to get hit. He got to be in the mix, right? Yeah, now this guy over here, my man Jacoby, did a great job. A nice guy. Sit down. Sit down.
Your ass down.
Sit down. You've done what you needed to do.
So where I'm going with that is he has to get just that level what Jacoby was playing. If he can get to that level, the Browns have a shot this week. He only has to play as good as Jacoby Brissett was when he left off.
And I don't think that's unreasonable.
We don't have to, and he doesn't have to be no super duper over the top 2 years ago Deshaun Watson. All he got to do is give him that. And I think that's the point that what Stefanski was saying is, hey, cool down. Jacoby tell him calm down.
But I'm saying,
put it in his head.
But I'm saying
You don't need
anybody
that.
is asking for, who may even suggested to make a swap.
We ain't swapping.
That's not what we're here for.
No, we're not swapping.
We done made the investment now. They laid out all the quarterbacks. They got all this guaranteed money on the screen yesterday, right? He got $230 million guaranteed money, right? You're committed to this. You're going to see this all the way through.
And that's why, even with me, I'm not a big Joe Woods fan. I'm not a Joe Woods fan in the least bit. But given what I know about the organization and who Kevin Stefanski is, Jason said it. They're not going to get rid of him during the year. That's just not their philosophy. They're committed to this year. They'll reevaluate in the postseason. And it's the same way with Deshaun Watson. Even if Deshaun Watson came out and threw 10 picks and looked untenable, he's going to start. Just the same way they stick behind the rest of the guys. And that just the same way they gave Baker Mayfield when he was hurt. They could have put anybody else in, but he said, no, I'm going to give you the credit. You start what you finish.
It's irrelevant to even ask. You were bringing up a point of saying that Brissett might. In no way were you saying they should play.
No, he's not saying that.
Right. To even ask that question is absurd. There is, unless Watson gets hurt, he's playing the rest of the season. It doesn't matter. He could throw 15 picks against the Bengals, and he's still going to play. The next week. It doesn't matter. It's all about getting you. These last games are, we can keep the pie in the sky hope that some miracle happens.
Kool-Aid.
But it's basically getting him ready to be ready to go.
It only took 13 weeks for y'all to finally agree with me because I said when the suspension went to 11
always
games.
do that later on. They always come on later on.
Jason was the first person I heard make that point, and I think now, in hindsight, Jason was right from the get-go.
What were you
It's
right
the first time he's been right about anything on the show.
season was over?
As soon as the suspension went to 11 games, it all became about next year.
that.
Well,
It became about,
but you know what,
they
though,
punted
Jason?
on the season at that point.
Here's why.
Gentleman's punt.
In theory,
Gentleman's punt.
you're right. However, if the defense, you didn't expect the defense to be this crappy.
No.
If the defense had played as we expected
We'd
them
be in
to,
the mix.
they'd be right in the mix right now.
Fall on the onside kick and you're in the mix.
Yeah.
Right.
Just fall on the onside kick. That's the game that's going to keep them out of the
That
playoffs.
goes back to G's comment. This has to be addressed because it wasn't that Jacoby Brissett had him in a bad position. They should be in the mix here. But the blunders that keep occurring on his defense. Did anybody see Greedy Williams' lack of a tackle yesterday? I'm like, oh my God, he's still on the team.
And he patting him on the back, trying to get him out of bounds.
That was pretty
what
bad.
What are you doing? He's trying to shoo him out. Shoot.
Not much to
Shoot now.
complain about for the defense yesterday, but that was a foul.
Get on out of here
I'm
now.
like, oh my God. I said, are you going to do this against Chase? Is this what's happening?
Did you see, who was it, Fields? That dude Pierce, Fields broke down 6 yards ahead of him. Like, I don't know what I'm going to just brace myself for this ride.
Fields got his ass run over.
Oh,
a couple
my
times.
God. He ran him.
He had the touchdown.
Oh.
But he had, and I would probably disagree with Tim a little bit. Tim said he saw improved tackling. I don't see that at all.
No.
These
Grant
dudes are
Delpit did have
still-
the one hit on the goal line. That was maybe the
He
best
did.
hit any Browns
The
player
pass
has had
defense
this
at the goal line.
season.
Yes, that was a
looked
good play.
better when the LSU highlights this weekend. Stop playing with me.
But they they do not.
He looked like
well.
a star at LSU though. When I saw those highlights.
By the way, guys, one thing I wanted to hit on, Jay was just furious on our text chain yesterday.
I wasn't really
Is that
following
who kept firing off them texts?
I didn't understand why he was angry.
Yeah, I was like,
He was mad that Stefanski didn't use his timeouts when the Browns had the ball. It was really their last drive of the first half, although they did get the ball back right at the end. But when they had it, the second to last drive, he didn't call the timeouts. They didn't get the first down, and it turned out to be smart that he didn't use the. He complained he was being too passive. I didn't see it that way. There was plenty of time with 3 outs. Had the Browns gotten the first down, I think they would have got. They had plenty of time with the 3 timeouts to be aggressive. I thought it was smart. I didn't have any problem with that.
They've done that in the past, where you want to see if you got a rhythm first.
Right.
Get the first
teams
down.
do that all the time.
Right. If you get the first down, okay, timeout. Now we're going to go.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you don't want to leave extra time for them going the other way. I didn't have any.
Even the Chiefs. I've seen the Chiefs and Bengals, 2 of the best offensive teams in the league, do that.
Jason hit it right. He said,
Yeah.
look, they went in at halftime and changed that whole playbook up. Like, no. They made the decision, oh, he ain't got it right now. And there's no way we about to call timeout and leave timeout. Because he just didn't have it. You just like, look, I'm not going to stop the clock for them and let these dudes run back down the field. We getting ready to run the ball with Kareem Hunt.
Well, go back to this. So the comments out of the players last week that Deshaun was looking crisp, right? That was practice crisp. Then you got the real game crisp, and you're like, whoa,
7 on 7 crisp is different levels to this. This vast levels to the levels of, like you said, they ain't got no defensive ends running
different
out.
level between a microwave steak and a real steak that's been on the grill.
That's right.
Or if you had a steak, which Deshaun Watson was a steak, hot off the grill, and you sit it outside of the microwave for 2 or 3 hours, and then you put it back into that microwave, you might as well throw that meat away.
That's right. All right, guys, we're going to get to, there's still a lot to get to today, but want to talk about our memberships there, Mikey. I have chosen, no offense to anybody that's going to be offended by this, I'm ignoring the starters tier. I don't think we should even put that up there anymore. You should only join the coaches tier, let's be honest, because the coaches tier has the extra content. That's where you get the extra content. So everybody that's been a member, switch to the coaches tier. Join go big or go home. That's what I got to say.
Yeah, it's less than $60 a year too. You get some exclusive overtime content. Today we're talking a little Ohio State.
You want to be on it today for this, because we're gonna deal with this overtime. This overtime video. We're gonna deal with this Ohio State hatred.
Think
That's
about
what
this.
We're gonna talk about
You're
today.
getting about 4 hours of extra content a month.
2 full shows.
Roughly 4 hours of extra content a month.
Gee, I got
and
my
in
stuff
that,
on.
and so you're essentially paying like $1 per hour, $1.25 per hour for the extra.
And plus, you could do cool things. I think we had 3 fans at the Clevelander, right?
Yeah.
3 fans came up, pulled up, they ate food with us and everything,
Yeah.
hung out, chilled
Eddie
out.
Eddie literally stayed till we all left.
Yeah.
He left with us.
So and become a member. You'll know about cool things like that. If you're a member, we can't put you on.
Yeah, that's right.
If you ain't really in it, if you know, you know. But go ahead and do that. I think it's well worth it, because there's topics that Mikey be taking out now that I'll be like, I should have been talking about that during the 12 o'clock hour.
Yeah. I wanted to jump in, Jason, because we talked a little about you being in the locker room yesterday. You said that the team was not worried about Deshaun Watson. The players were not worried.
No.
Is there a confidence? Like, are they?
Hey, real quick,
Yeah, go ahead.
quick. Justin Verlander to the Mets, 2 years, $90 million.
Ooh, wow.
Just throwing it out there. 2 years, $90 million.
Wow.
So they got Verlander and
They lost DeGrom, but they got Verlander and Scherzer.
I mean, DeGrom can't stay healthy. He's a great pitcher, but the Rangers are going to regret that.
How old is he?
contract.
41? Verlander 41? He's like
He's old, but
Well,
he's still filthy.
They lost DeGrom. Chris Bassett's nobody here cares.
So we don't
but-
think that's a big deal.
Yeah, 90,
Jason,
45
I do want
million
to hear
a year.
your locker room
So,
insight.
Jason, do they feel like in that locker room? Do they feel like a team that thinks they're still in the hunt?
You know, I said last week after they
Yeah.
beat Tampa, they absolutely believe that they're not dead, and
Yeah.
I think that they do feel that way, but they're also realistic about where they stand. They're 5-7. You know,
Yeah.
I think they're 11th in the AFC. They need a lot of help. It's not even just winning out. They need a lot of things to go their way ahead of them.
It's not good when they put up on the graphics on the sports broadcast. You know, they have division leader, wild card,
Right.
in the hunt.
In the hunt.
If you're not in the hunt,
And then everyone else.
It's a
Yeah.
bad.
Well, I think
it's-
they
it's a
were, but they
bad-
were the last team in the hunt.
No, yesterday they didn't have listed in the hunt.
They're still looking for their boots and their gun. right now.
No, listen, Reflog changed it for us. Reflog hooked us up. Can a team dream? That's our category.
Oh, no. Is that what
So I think that they're very realistic, and that's why I said at the top of the show, I was talking to one player on the offensive side who's like, look, even if it's for next year, it's just these last 6 games getting Deshaun up and ready to go.
5 teams to get in the hunt.
Yeah,
Stop
I
playing
know.
with me.
So I think that they're very realistic. I think there was a lot of emotion and excitement coming off the Tampa win because it was such a big win, and it did save any sort of hope. They had to get that game, and they got that game. But I think realistically, they know where it stands. They know the odds that are against them, and so really, sure, you keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
But it's all about preparing this offense, getting Deshaun ready, and making sure there are no excuses next year, and from day one you're ready to go.
Well, it's just not that either. You got to figure out if you don't make the run this year, which you're probably not going to make the run. Now you got to be shrewd here because your picks are gone, right? So how are you going to be shrewd? Who's doing the prep work that's necessary here?
Well, not all. I mean, this year only their first round pick.
They just lost their first round. They got second
It's a
round
big
or third
deal.
round.
Obviously, you'd like to have a first round pick.
Right.
But I'd rather have Deshaun Watson than have that.
Yeah,
first round
there's no
pick,
question. But
right. So yeah, they got it. The Browns are now to the point, for the first time in ever, first time certainly since they've been back in '99, where they can't afford to screw up their draft picks because they're not going to be in the past they've always been able to spend if they wanted to because they were cap was never an issue. This is the first time the cap's ever been an issue, and so the Browns their second, third, fourth round picks are huge. They can't blow those picks.
And they've got a lot of misses in the last couple of
No
years
doubt.
in those rounds, and that's where, as we talk about the defensive tackles, that's what's killing them. Missing on Jordan Elliott, missing on Togi. I believe Togi, if memory serves, I think he was inactive again yesterday. He's been inactive the last couple of weeks.
They have been awful at drafting players in the front seven.
So
Or free agency. They've been terrible.
So where do you go now? We just talked about, okay, well, if they're going to get another receiver, okay, well, you want some defensive tackles, okay, we need a linebacker. Because you've missed on some of those mid-round picks in the past,
right?
You've really put yourself up against it now in terms of the cap and the flexibility that you have to get better. But they also have some hits. Martin Emerson's terrific. That was a home run pick. Just a home run
And
pick.
I still think Greg Newsome, even though he's not had a good year, I still think he's a good player.
He's fine.
Right? But Emerson's a big hit. Donovan Peoples-Jones is a big hit.
I still think David Bell's going to be okay.
I
still like him.
He's an incomplete at this point. Schwartz is a miss.
This is the reason why you almost are forced to get rid of Joe Woods, because you need somebody that can do some smoke and mirrors with the pieces you got. You said you wanted Joe Woods, and he got to handpick all these people, right? It ain't working. You're not being able to get the pressure that you want. So you need to bring in another guy that's going to be able to get the maximum amount out of some of these positions that have not been playing up to snuff. If you're going to be great, there's Denzel Ward. You need somebody to get in his mind, in his body, and tell him, look, we paying you $100 million.
Let's go. Pick it up.
Y'all gotta be locked down.
By the way, guys,
secondary has to be locked down.
By the way, sorry to cut you off. We have breaking news from the Browns. Kevin Stefanski just said Sione Takitaki torn ACL.
Yeah, I saw when they took him off.
It's a big loss.
Yeah.
Hey,
He's played well.
Look good.
Taki's been playing well the last few weeks.
Hey, man, that Kool-Aid is getting.
When they took him off, I knew that was bad.
That Kool-Aid is real lukewarm right now. Oh my gosh, Taki! Listen, you got to think about it. Taki moved to the middle linebacker. He was one of their better tacklers. He's sound. I thought he was having a great year. He's one of your better special teams guys.
He's a solid player. He's not a special player, but he's a solid NFL player.
But you went from solid. Now I got to play Deion Jones. Mr. Ole himself.
What's his name?
Ole, 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 ole.
I mean, your linebackers at this point are Tony Fields and Deion Jones.
Oh, there's no way. Listen.
Tony Fields isn't even a linebacker, is he? I mean, he's got to play, but he's like a hybrid
I'd call
safety.
him a linebacker.
And JOK, I like your athleticism, dog. I really do, Randy Jackson voice. But you ain't got enough of your britches to bring these dudes down. You light in the trunks.
He got to pick his weight up.
You get your weight up. I'm tired of seeing you one-on-one and then running back. You every time you turn around, he running some more. You getting up talking about. Almost
that's why I said there's a sequence to this, right? Because you always talk about the coaching with Joe Woods, right? But that's not the coaching.
Right.
It's the person shopping for the groceries too. The person who finds and mines the talent bull has to mirror with the person behind him that I brought you this work. Now you got to make this work.
Right? Yeah, no doubt.
There seems to be some misconnection.
Absolutely.
Here.
I mean, Andrew Berry has been a mixed bag with his picks, and sometimes is it the development by the coaching staff, or is it did you just make the pick wrong? I think they have to reevaluate how they're evaluating guys in the front seven, because in that area they've gotten it wrong every time, free agency and draft. In other areas they've had a lot of success or a mixed bag. But in the front seven, they've gotten it wrong every time, this group. By the way, a couple other injury updates for the Browns. David Bell day-to-day with a thumb injury. Anthony Schwartz is in the concussion protocol. And Ronnie Harrison has cleared the concussion protocol. So there you go.
So I asked you a long time ago, Jason, so who's making the selections over there? Right? Because that's key. That's key in any good organization. Somebody's got to be nuts and bolts about knowing what you're buying here and have a good feel for it. Who is that over there?
It's Andrew Berry in terms of who's making the picks in the draft.
But take me through his football prowess. I mean, is he a down and dirty guy that knows talent?
Well, I think that was John Dorsey. You know, he had the scouting background, and he was that guy who would roll up his sleeves and really kind of learn these guys. Berry is more of the, I mean, you're going to cringe, but he's the Ivy League guy, and he's the guy who was highly thought of around the league. He's youngest GM when the Browns hired him, and deeply respected wherever he's been, Philly, Baltimore. And they always kind of had their eye on him as they wanted him for this job.
I don't know how many thing against the Ivy League guys, right? Because your business acumen is not, you're not a down in the weeds dude, right? You're not a person that knows, right? Because it's not how much information you got out the book. I tell you, when nuts and bolts of any sports is this, you have to know the eye test. And the eye test, when I walk into any venue, you can pretty much tell the nuance of who can play and who can't, right? And then you walk into an environment where you see people who get all this accolades, right? And then you look at them and you're like, they couldn't play dead at a funeral, right? And it seems to me that we always get caught up in that. The people we always pull out are these people, these big name people that are supposed to have all this talent, but then when they hit the field, you're left wondering and scratching your head. And then I'm looking at people that got drafted under these people that we had a chance to grab, and they seem to blow up everywhere they go. Like, it's unbelievable.
I don't believe. My problem with them is when you start saying you don't value certain positions, right?
Well, I don't know that they've said that.
I mean, but it's in the pudding.
I just think I don't know that I agree with that. I just think they've gotten it wrong. I mean, they've added a lot of guys in the front seven. They just keep getting the wrong guys.
Alex Wright might be able to play. I'm not ready to cast him off.
He might.
I'm not ready to cast him off as a bust.
You got the best linebackers that they've had are one-year guys. B.J. Goodson and Anthony Walker.
I think B.J. Goodson was before these guys, wasn't he? Was that Dorsey?
I don't remember.
BJ,
Maybe you're right.
One-year guys, right?
Yeah.
You got your defensive tackles, right? Those guys are third round picks.
Yeah.
You haven't brought any big game free agents at any one of those positions, and I just like to say, go back and look at these teams. The Pittsburgh Steelers, as well as the Ravens traditionally. You got Ray Lewis, dog. You got Ed Reed. Like, yeah, you don't traditionally say, I'm going to pick a safety that high or a linebacker that high, or I'm not going to invest in Haloti Ngata playing defensive tackle. But when you get transcendent type players, they transcend the whole defense, right? So to me, I'm looking at the Cleveland Browns and I'm saying, I don't see nobody transcendent. I see Myles Garrett, but I can't. I need an attack and a scheme to go with that.
Yeah.
I need something more with that. And now you got Taki. He was going to be gone.
Yeah.
JOK, you want to build it around speed. They need two big D tackles.
Yeah.
Two big ones.
No doubt. That's you look in this division, and all the other teams are strong at D tackle. They're all good, and the Browns are not. It's a huge problem, and I just don't buy that they don't care about it. I just think they've missed, swung and missed.
And I've said this before. It's the one position, D tackle is the one position that they've addressed every year in the draft under this regime in the fourth round or higher. It's not that they're ignoring it. They just keep whiffing. Jordan Elliott, Tommy Togiai, there's another one. Who am I missing? There's another one in there. And they seem to fill it last year a little bit, a stopgap in free agency with Malik Jackson, Malik McDowell, and then McDowell had his issues, which we know about, and Jackson wasn't picked up, I don't believe, by anybody. I think he's out of the league and he's done. But so they've tried to address this.
Now I think the one thing to G's argument is they haven't put significant capital into that position.
But you only get one first-round pick.
No.
You know
but
what
I mean like financial capital, like a big free agent.
They tried signing Taven Bryan, and he hasn't worked out this year.
Yeah, but
he was one of their first free agent signings.
He was, but he was not a big, like, nobody expected him to be that good.
He may have been their first free agent signing, which
he
tells
was.
you where they put the priority. If that's where'd they lead off with before? Jack Conklin, right? Wasn't he their first?
Sure.
And so for Taven Bryan to be the first guy that you sign tells you what they thought about.
So the Browns have 2 tiers of scouting. I'm looking it up now. Right? They've got a pro scouting group that scout the people in the league. Mm-hmm. Then they've got a college scouting group.
That's common.
And so I've never heard. Listen, so did you know Adam Kayel is the director of pro scouting? Sam DeLuca is the assistant director of pro scouting.
Yeah, but Brad, you go through any team, you're not going to know those guys.
No, but here. No, some of the people you will know.
Really?
Because they've been around the business.
I knew Alonzo Highsmith.
Yeah. They've been around the business, right? So you can walk in, and Ozzie Newsome, you couldn't fool him. He knew what he was doing, right? And
right, but there's not a lot of Ozzie Newsome.
No, but I'm saying here, Bull. Yeah. Somebody here I should recognize, at least one person.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, do you recognize any? Can you name anybody in the Steelers front office?
Let me pull up the list.
I mean, can you name anybody in the Bengals front office?
Or hold on, I will give you this. And I've always thought about this in a different perspective.
Yeah.
What allows the Steelers to play the same style of defense no matter
continuity?
No matter who they bring
continuity.
in.
Stability.
They just play that way. You know, if you go to even guys that you didn't think were necessarily
they don't
that
fire
type of player.
people every 8 seconds.
When their GM is there for 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
They get a guy. Well,
most people can't name him.
Watch this though. Since I've been born, Steelers play the same way.
Well, because they don't change coaches.
80s, 90s, 2000s, they coming to get you. It don't matter.
I'm 51 years old. They've had 3 coaches my entire life. 3.
Well, there are 14 people in the Browns pro and college scouting.
Yeah.
I don't recognize not one.
Yeah, but I bet you if you look through most teams, you'll not going to recognize most guys.
I didn't say you had to have 10 people, but somebody here, what I see here, Bull, is this.
Yeah.
I see a number of misses, right? So my first question as a person in the business is, who is picking the groceries? And what level of impact do you have on that? Who are you? Because that person, as he don't make the selection, he goes to Barry to say, these are my people.
All right. Well, this won't be the last time we have this conversation. Mikey, what do you got?
We got to get to what the internet says.
PCC action?
What do you say?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Yeah, we got to get to what the internet says. It's brought to us by our good friends at PCC. We got 3 things from the internet today. When you're looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits, PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Mentor, Wickliffe, Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. I got a couple things. First, the super chat from Donnie M. He says, "Hey, fellas, the ESPN playoff prediction machine is out, so you can see all the scenarios for making the playoffs. Wild card is an option with some losses, but no clear path except for the division." Well, I have the paths, so I'm going to read these to you real quick.
Okay.
To win the division title, this is what Cleveland needs. The Browns need to win out. The Bengals need to lose at Tampa Bay and at home versus Buffalo, and have the Ravens lose at Pittsburgh, at Cincinnati. All 11 of those scenarios would have to hit in succession for that to work. For the wild card, you guys ready for this? This is the fun one. You have to make a wild card.
Yeah.
The Browns need to win out. The Jets need to lose at Buffalo, at Seattle, and at Miami. The Chargers need to lose versus Miami, versus Tennessee. The Patriots need to lose against Cincinnati and at Buffalo. So in that scenario, that's 4.
By the way, those losses for all those other teams
that's not
are
far-fetched.
not crazy.
That is not far-fetched.
The most far-fetched is the Browns winning out.
Yes, that's
it's
the
just
part.
the fact that you need all 12 to happen.
Right.
I actually think in terms of, even though it's more games, I think the wild card for the other teams is more likely.
Hey,
You know what you guys remind me of?
Hey,
You guys remind me of the dudes I went to in Vegas.
Yeah.
Who put like $10 on like the 10 team.
Don't put
to
me in
try
there. I don't think the Browns are going to win out.
Hey, the most difficult
the 10
part.
team parlay.
I'm just saying.
What's the casino down by the blood plasma place on the rough end of town?
Yeah.
And you get the dudes
It's-
in
you
there.
know,
and they
these
put
scenarios are
$5.
crazy.
You just need 12.
If the
things
Browns
to hit.
can
the
win the
12
next 2
team
weeks and
parlay.
get to 500 with 3 weeks to go, then we can talk about scenarios.
You got
Man,
some big time teams in there. Hey, listen,
Man, I'm-
hey, we can revisit this
Stop
after
playing with
We
me.
will.
Stop playing with me. I'm picking my weight up in the scouting division.
We got two more
I'm
things
already
from the
going to all the
internet.
All right,
bowl
go ahead,
games,
This
trying
is
to
a
see
tweet.
who
Let's
out
take
here.
tag board
that
full
can
here,
help
Cole.
me.
I just sent this to
Board
you.
full.
I want everyone to guess here. This is from Nick Wagoner. Newly released quarterback Baker Mayfield has an 18.2 total QBR this season. That ranks 520th at a 521st qualified quarterback season since the stats started being tracked in 2006. I'm working on getting the answer of who's
521?
521.
Deshaun Kaiser, Browns.
Let's take a guess because I don't have the answer yet. I'll find it by the end of the show. Deshaun Kaiser's your
I'm going to
guess.
say Deshaun Kaiser.
You got to have a minimum number of.
Yeah, he played a decent amount of games.
He played
No,
11
Kaiser
games.
played the
he,
whole-
he
Yeah.
would qualify.
No, but I'm
Maybe
trying to think
maybe
who
it's
else.
Johnny Manziel.
I mean, that's amazing that it's that. He actually has more. I think he had one more touchdown than picks.
Hey, Bull, how much can you buy those shirts for now?
I have the answer, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
What odds would you put on
They're
it that
being
it
given
is
away.
a Browns?
Being used as
What
red.
odds would you put on it that it is a Browns quarterback? That's
Oh,
under
yeah, it's a good
521?
33%.
I'll give you a hint.
chance.
Deshaun Kaiser's in the top 3. I won't tell you if he's 1 or 3, but Deshaun
All right.
Kaiser.
That's a good
that
job by me
season
being close
is
there.
close.
At least 1 or 3. Anybody else got a guess?
I like the Manziel. That was a good guess, Manziel.
I don't know if Manziel played it. Well, I guess he probably played enough.
That's your guess. G. Bush, what's your guess?
And this is a Browns
It's
quarterback.
a name.
No, it's
no. I'm
no.
not saying it's Browns. I'm not saying it's not
he's
a Browns.
Not saying it one way or the other.
But it is a name you will know.
Ken Dorsey.
Okay. Brad?
I said, man, I was the first one to say Manziel.
Ooh, I know who it might be also is Jared Goff's rookie year.
No, but it was another number 1 overall pick. How about Jamarcus Russell in 2008? And not only was he significantly worse, Baker, second worst, 16.8. Deshaun Kaiser, third worst at 17.
Yeah.
Jamarcus Russell in 2008, an 11.5. So almost
All right,
33%
so I got the
worse
third.
than those two.
He got the bag, though.
That's tough.
He got a bag.
All right, got one more for us, Mikey?
And lastly, someone in the chat, and I missed the name, and I apologize. I'll go back and find it. But they said we ripped Deshaun Watson for his play, appropriately so. But let's get one positive to give the people from what we saw from Watson as we head
All right,
out
Brad,
here.
start us off. Around the horn. One positive from Watson.
The positive I saw from Watson is I saw him processing the information. He's going to get better. Just won't be in the first week.
Yeah. Jason, you're positive from Watson.
We saw a little bit of a run. He had, I think, an 11-yard run, and he did hit DPJ on like a 27-yard strike. I think it was the longest play of the game. So there were flashes there. There were sparks, but they were few and far between.
As we said, sometimes when you get a quarterback, he makes you a little better. And it wasn't the fact that these turnovers were like crazy, because like Jason said, he could have picked that fumble up and rolled out himself. But I will say, it's something to be had for that mojo, that synergy, just who you are, elevating people, and you can see in a way where you get the defensive touchdowns, a punt return, and you still win. Winners usually find a way to win, even if they have their worst game. And I thought the Browns find a way to win.
You know how, like, you hear about artists can see, like somebody that's a sculptor can see a piece of clay, and it's nothing. It's just a piece of clay, but they can somehow, because they're sculptors, they could see something beautiful in there. That's what I feel like about Deshaun Watson. Like, right now, yesterday he just looked like a lump of clay. There was nothing. But I could see it. I see the beautifulness in there, the size, he looks like an NFL quarterback. That size, the athletic ability, the arm strength, it's all there. He's just effed up right now. His mechanics are a little bit of a mess. His head probably is, at least to some degree, a little bit of a mess. He will get there, and we might not see it consistently till next year, but he will get there. If he were 32, 33, I think maybe it's not going to happen. But he's, 27?
Yeah.
He's going to be fine. It may take longer than we expected, but he's going to be fine. It's there.
Let me shake your hand
Just
really
hidden
quickly.
right now.
Since when you start scheming like that? Since when you start telling stories like G. Bush? You see what he did right there? He started with the ball of clay.
Ball of clay,
You don't
baby.
see it, but it coming. I see some shape and form coming in. That's what I'm talking about.
That was a G. Bush type
That's
story.
a G. Bush.
That was.
When did he start
I stole it
scheming
from
like
you,
that?
yeah. All right, guys, let's get to some final takes. Brad, start us off.
Brad's up first.
Well,
Also, Brad, how about Notre Dame beating UConn yesterday?
oh yeah. Well, after those Terps took them down on Thursday,
That was ripe for the pickings.
UConn didn't get the message. Those gonna have, the Irish was going to be ready in South Bend. They weren't taking 2 L's in South Bend, right? Shout out to Neil Ivey for having the Irish ready, right? But here's my take, and we'll get to a lot of it in this overtime. I can't understand this Ohio State hatred going on in here. I mean, this is
Here or just in
this is
general?
across
It's
the nation.
across the nation.
Well, because Ohio State fans are obnoxious, and so,
this
fans
Ohio
hate 'em.
State hatred. You tell me how TCU, who loses in the championship game, the number 3 team in the country, loses to the number 10, right? You lose to the number 10, not the number 4, not the number 2. You lost to number 10. And you still save your position at number 3? See, if I was a college football, if the bowl people, I would have done this. TCU would have got booted. I would have took in Ohio State and Alabama, and I'd have been like, Alabama, you playing
No,
Georgia.
come on now.
Ohio State, you playing Michigan. I'm going to make all the money, G.
All of it.
The problem is with the Ohio State hatred is you just won't say it, right?
Yeah.
You don't hate on us because we make the money. We bring the money. That's what we do, right? And the college football did like this. They said, you know what we're going to do? We are going to make Ohio State play Georgia.
Yeah.
And then, because I know Michigan going to beat the crap out of TCU. And then at the end, I got Georgia versus Michigan or Ohio State versus Michigan. I'm going to make all the money.
Yeah. Jason, we'll talk more about that, as Brad said, coming up in overtime.
Well, I want to go back. This is the final take. It's kind of old now, but I don't have anything better. So I'll go back to the one I was going to use last week.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys can pull it up or not. But if you go back to the Ohio State-Michigan game, and the call that Ryan Day got absolutely obliterated for was the 4th down call when he punted, and everyone went crazy. A lot of people went crazy and thought he should have gone for it. If you can find it on the internet, I had this all set up last week, but we'll just talk it through. If you can find it on the internet, they actually had a fake punt called that would have worked on that play. It's just that the snapper screwed it up and snapped it to the punter, who wasn't expecting it. You can go find this on the internet. It's crazy. And I'm going to read you what Jim Harbaugh said after that game. We got so lucky, one of the 4th downs, they had a fake on, and they had us. I mean, they had us cold. We were prepared for it. Wow. We knew the fake was coming just by the personnel that was there. We had, it goes on and on from there. But if you go back and find the fake punt, the end zone angle from behind the punter, you see it clearly where the up guy had the snap and had a whole field in front of him. He easily would have gotten the 1st down. He may have scored on it, but the snapper snapped it to the wrong guy. Now, would that have changed the outcome of the Ohio State-Michigan game? I don't know.
Not.
But Brad, you know it's better than anybody. It becomes an avalanche sometimes when you're out there. One bad thing leads to another. Yeah. And had they scored on that play, it would have changed the entire complexion of the game. I bring this up now only because here you go. Here's the play. So now you see.
Who's this guy?
Don't worry about that. So it's supposed to go to the up back.
Yeah.
Look at that hole.
Oh,
look at the hole.
Gosh.
So that guy's just kind of.
he would have gotten it.
Oh,
he might have had a touchdown. You're
so,
right.
and if you watch the start of that play again, the punter was not expecting the snap. And then that's the quote from Harbaugh I was reading. Yeah. So the punter was not expecting to receive the snap, and he was actually moving already and had to reach back for the snap. So would that have changed the outcome of the game? I don't know. But maybe, just maybe, we'll get an Ohio State-Michigan rematch now in the national championship game.
Can you imagine the ratings for that?
Who would have ever saw that coming when that game ended?
You want to wait on this take because I got some serious Ohio State takes.
All right, well, we got it coming up. Go ahead,
Hey,
G.
man,
You're up, buddy.
hey, man, first of all, y'all might want to get that subscription ready because
Tell 'em.
everybody on here got it. We done talked Deshaun Watson and Browns for 2.5 hours almost, and everybody's final take is about Ohio State. So you get that bonus coverage. You got a couple seconds to subscribe. It's all good. But I gotta get into this old State conversation, man. Boy, shout out to college football. You know what you've done? You've turned what could have been a black eye and your sport getting dismantled and no one caring. And you know what you've done? You finally embraced capitalism.
Yes.
You finally come along with the rest of the 21st century.
Absolutely.
And join society in understanding that the more money you can spread around, the better. When you look at what they've done, you guys have done a couple of things. You fast-tracked the 12-man playoff because you realize the more markets to stay involved, the better for you. You've also unlocked some of the things that we've been telling you from Jump Street. You now get rematches. Ohio State, Michigan was never going to be a possibility under the current system or the BCS or when they were voting. Now you got an opportunity to look at this. You got Ohio State, Michigan, could be a national championship. Moving forward, you can have a rematch in the SEC, again, Georgia, maybe Alabama. You can now have opportunities where Southern teams have to travel in the first few weeks of the playoff system up to Northern teams. You'll get a USC, maybe potential in the big house. You'll get a LSU or Florida
Well, that's
team.
going to happen anyway because they're in the conference now.
And they'll get that regardless.
Yeah.
But this is exciting times for college football. I love what a lot of energy this week. All of the bowl games were great. All of the conference championships were live. Shout out to you guys. I think you guys are on a trajectory. It's just going to get better.
Mike, are we switching our OT topic now?
No, we're still doing it.
All right.
We're going to get into it because I think there is a lot of the nuance to it as far as
no doubt.
Did they back in? Do they deserve to be there
right.
with USC
Not
losing? There's a lot of
changing
nuance.
All right, let me talk about a
But I
subject.
hope your final take is not Ohio State.
It is not. It's a much more important subject. In general, I hate the people on Twitter who are the spelling police or the grammar police. Those people are awful, generally. But I am going to break the rule because there is one thing when it comes to speaking and grammar and all this stuff. Everything else you could screw up, I don't care. But there's one thing that is a pox on society that I hear it wrong all the time. Again, listening to MLB radio this morning, I heard, what's his name, the former catcher, Chris...
Iannetti?
No, that's Iannetta, but can't think of his name. Screw this up, and it gets screwed up all the time. So let me teach a lesson to everybody out there. It's I couldn't care less. Not I could care less. You see, if you could care less, then you could care less. Think of it this way. If you're not sure what to say, you care so little that you couldn't care less. Please, everybody gets that wrong, and it drives me freaking crazy. Stop getting it wrong. If you could care less, then you could care less, and what you're trying to say doesn't make any sense.
You're right. That's way more important than Ohio State.
Right. Of course it is.
Yeah. Yep.
Ohio State's going to get their ass kicked by Georgia anyway. What's the difference?
Not necessarily, but keep it moving.
I don't know. Obviously, well, we'll get more into that.
Yes.
I do want to give a shout out.
Yeah.
Is it Glenville? First Cleveland
Glenville.
Public High School to ever win a state championship.
Well, Coach
All coming this
Ginn
morning. Coach
finally
Ginn,
got his
shout out to
elusive state
Glenville.
championship.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Great
Clap
job
that
by
up.
them.
Clap that up.
Football factory. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they hadn't won a state title.
Yeah, but he produced some
And
players.
he got it. He got it.
There should be asterisks by there.
Yeah.
Playing at a public high school at Camp McKinley, I understand what Glenville was up against.
Yeah.
Glenville was Division I for years.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you want to win a state championship Division I, you're either going to have to play Mentor, St. Ed's, or Ignatius. That's
Right.
rough enough.
Who
And
recruit? Those schools recruit.
And then the next week, that ain't good enough. You got to go down south and play St. X, Elder. You might have to get you might have to get Moeller.
By the
all
way,
those great teams.
In New York City, I'm not saying this is better or worse, and it's different because in New York City, all the schools are big, so it's not like here where it's not like in Ohio where some schools are tiny and some schools are huge. Right. Because New York City has its own postseason separate from the rest of New York State. But in New York City, there's two divisions. That's it: public, private.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm not saying that would be
There's
better.
not classes as far as size in New York City.
What's that?
There's not. I mean, I know public,
No,
private, but there's
because
no.
all the New York City public schools are huge. There's not like
PS 19 and
they're all huge. There's no like tiny New York City schools.
If you
New
ask,
Jersey had public and private, but there was different
never had
classes
school
depending.
I had
on
over
the size.
1,000 people in my high school. Like
that?
I think I had close to 2,000 people in my high school.
if you ask any city guys, they fight against it because when I was coming up, that was your stamp. That was the badge on.
Right.
We played Ignatius and we beat y'all, and we just happened to grow up in the same school.
Right.
Didn't Ignatius win a state title also?
No.
Chuck Kyle's last year?
No.
I mean St. Ed's. I'm sorry.
Yeah, St.
Ed's.
Shout out to Lakewood St. Ed's.
Yeah,
they
won
won
a state.
Division I state champions.
Yeah.
Shout out to them. Yeah. They should.
That were the only two schools anywhere close that won, right? All these.
Akron Homer won.
St. Ed's won.
Right, yeah, St. Ed's, I mentioned.
Yeah, Akron
screwed up and
State,
St.
yeah.
Ignatius, but anyway, congratulations. All right, folks, we appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow. Who we got on the show tomorrow there, Mikey?
Tomorrow we have Aditi, and how about Clay Matthews Jr. Making his debut with Jen.
What? Is Jay back tomorrow? We don't know.
He was under the weather today, so
All
I
right,
guess
maybe
it's a
he'll be
wait
back,
and see
maybe he
situation.
won't. And so there you go. All right, stick around if you're a member. If you're not a member, sign up right now for the coaches tier, $4.99 a month. You can join us for overtime. We're talking more Buckeyes and maybe a little soccer too. Next.